Chapter 2402. Yi Shang had seen the Genesis essence of heaven and earth before in the records he had purchased in the God realm. It was a rare treasure that was extremely difficult to produce. Even a drop of it was extremely rare. It was very effective in tempering one's body. Cultivators who used the Genesis essence could even be compared to the ancestral dragon in terms of body tempering talent. You don't have to reach the upper feather god level. Anyone can participate in the competition. It's just that the competition is too cruel. Those below the upper feather god level will die miserably. How can I bear to harm you when you treat me to a barbecue? Mo Yuqian smacked his lips. So it's like that. Looks like I'll have to work hard for the next 70 years. The Genesis essence was an opportunity that could only be encountered by chance. Knight Sorrow, who wanted to increase his strength, naturally did not want to miss it. After asking a few more questions about the endless bone realm, Knight Sorrow left for the bone tower. Along the way, he hunted skeletons and killed robbers. When Knight Sorrow arrived near the bone tower, he had already accumulated 1,500 crystal cores the size of a fingernail. When he was 100,000 miles away from the bone tower, the soul-devouring evil wind gradually weakened. When he was 50,000 miles away, it completely disappeared. What replaced it was a scene of gentle wind and bright sunshine. The sky was no longer hazy. He could see white clouds and even an oasis. He did not know if it was suitable for cultivation, but it was definitely suitable for cultivators to live in. It was here that he saw a slightly larger residential area, as well as the toll collectors that the Python King had mentioned. If you want to enter the area under Lord Fengling's jurisdiction, you have to pay 20 standard crystal cores. If you want to be protected, you have to pay 200,000 crystal cores every 10,000 years. Just as he reached the periphery of the buildings, a small group of cultivators surrounded Knight Sorrow and collected the fee. Here are 20 crystal cores. Keep them well. After asking, Knight Sorrow found out that the crystal cores of the lower feather god level skeletons were standard crystal cores. After handing over 20 crystal cores, he raised his head and looked at the towering bone tower not far away. He prepared to walk in. At this moment, a feminine voice suddenly called out to him. Knight Sorrow, you didn't expect this, did you? We can still meet. The feminine voice trembled slightly. Lung Qianqiu, it's actually you. Knight Sorrow turned around and saw that the person who stopped him was Lung Qianqiu. At this moment, Lung Qianqiu was wearing a red dress designed for female cultivators. Her lips were painted red, and her hair was also in a hairstyle unique to female cultivators. Her body was slightly trembling, and her eyes were filled with murderous coldness. It's me. Today is the day you die. Lung Qianqiu's body refinement level was still very low, but he was very confident. Sister, you're thinking too much. It's not that easy to kill me. You don't have that strength. Knight Sorrow didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Lung Qianqiu's appearance that was neither male nor female. He couldn't help but shiver. Of course I'm not enough, but my husband is an expert at the upper feather god level. When he rushes over, you're dead for sure, Lung Qianqiu said resentfully. Only Lung Qianqiu himself knew what he had experienced and what he felt in his heart. Husband? You changed so quickly. Besides, why should I wait for him to come? Goodbye. Lung Qianqiu's husband wasn't around, so Knight Sorrow hurriedly slipped away and headed straight for the bone tower. He was a little disgusted by that strong man. He thought that if he couldn't beat him, wouldn't he become the second Lung Qianqiu? Knight Sorrow, I don't believe that you can stay in the bone tower forever. Watching Knight Sorrow enter the bone tower, Lung Qianqiu roared at the top of his lungs. I wonder what kind of tricks this bone tower has. If I can cultivate, I have to increase my strength. Otherwise, I might be at a disadvantage when facing those two freaks. Knight Sorrow judged that although his body was special and he could use the power of virtue, he shouldn't be a match for that male cultivator. Therefore, he had to increase his strength in the bone tower. If he was defeated by that kind of person, Knight Sorrow didn't dare to imagine the consequences. After thinking for a moment, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. So the bone tower relies on puppets to operate. Walking into the bone tower, Knight Sorrow saw that the managers of the bone tower were all slow-moving puppets. Picking up an ancient book that introduced the bone tower, Night Sorrow learned that there were all kinds of body-tempering cultivation rooms in the Bone Tower. He could use crystal cores to exchange for cultivation time. All kinds of body-tempering books could also be exchanged with crystal cores. Divine body-tempering books were quite expensive. Almost every one of them required millions of crystal cores. The 1,000 crystal cores in Night Sorrow's hands were simply not enough. There were some special secret techniques that weren't cheap to exchange for. Night Sorrow couldn't afford it, so he didn't think much about it. As for the entrance to the trial, it was also in the tower, but in a different area. He didn't want to try it for the time being. Let's exchange for some time in the lightning body tempering cultivation room first. The price of the body tempering cultivation room wasn't high. Night Sorrow spent 1,000 crystal cores in exchange for 10 years of cultivation time in the lightning body tempering cultivation room. After handing over the crystal cores, Night Sorrow received a sparkling jade token. Together with a female cultivator, who also exchanged for 10 years of cultivation time, they walked into their respective cultivation rooms. The lightning in this cultivation room could be adjusted to normal, difficult, hell, and nirvana levels. It's indeed very suitable for body tempering. In the lightning body tempering room, Night Sorrow read the description of the cultivation room and couldn't help but sigh. The lightning in this cultivation room was different from the lightning tribulation. After being baptized by lightning, the cultivator's body would become stronger. Let's see what the effects of the normal level are. Night Sorrow pressed the normal levels control switch, and a thick black cloud immediately floated over the huge cultivation room. Then bolts of lightning as thick as bowls continuously fell, striking Night Sorrow's body. It seems a bit too weak. Soon, Night Sorrow discovered that these bolts of lightning didn't have much effect on his body tempering. Thus, he adjusted it to difficult, but it still didn't have much effect. Night Sorrow gritted his teeth and directly adjusted it to the highest level, Nirvana level. Crack! A muffled thunder came from the sky, but there was a sound, but the lightning didn't fall. What's going on? Night Sorrow looked up at the sky and found that the lightning was rolling in the black clouds, but it didn't fall. It should be brewing a more powerful lightning. After waiting for an entire month, the lightning in the black clouds finally quieted down. However, it was only quiet for a moment, and the lightning that was as fine as a spider's web fell continuously, striking Night Sorrow's body. What a powerful lightning! Night Sorrow didn't even experience this kind of lightning when he helped the Samsara Heavenly Halberd transcend the forbidden lightning tribulation. Soon, cracks began to appear on his body from the bombardment. It's said that the longer you persist, the greater the harvest. The Nirvana level lightning is really terrifying. In the surging lightning, Night Sorrow's body was like a blade of grass blown by the wind, swaying constantly, and he couldn't raise his head at all. The cracks on his body became more and more terrifying, and the spread was very frightening. However, Night Sorrow still persisted. Chapter 2403. In the end, Night Sorrow persisted for a full year. He was afraid that if he continued, his foundation would be damaged, so he stopped. As soon as the thunder stopped, the environment of the cultivation room changed dramatically. Some transparent energy visible to the naked eye poured into the cultivation room from all directions. Nourished by this energy, the cracks on Night Sorrow's body began to heal little by little. 2 years later, Night Sorrow's injuries were all healed. His body refining level had also increased significantly. From the basic level of a low-level feather god to 10% of a low-level feather god, he was much closer to the middle-level feather god. Cultivating here is really twice the result with half the effort. I don't even have a divine level body refining technique, but my body refining level can still increase so quickly. Night Sorrow, who had an infinite desire for strength, did not delay at all. He activated the Nirvana level thunder again, and accepted the baptism and destruction of the thunder. That kind of pain was heart-wrenching, but it was not as painful as the pain of his family. In order to become stronger, in order to protect his family, Night Sorrow could endure any kind of pain. However, using this method to increase the level of his body refining level had a decreasing effect. After 10 years of tempering, Night Sorrow's body refining level had increased to 20% of a low-level feather god's level. This speed could not be compared to the first time he used the thunder, but overall, Night Sorrow was very satisfied. It could even be said that they were shocked. However, Night Sorrow, who walked out of the cultivation room, shocked them even more. In the cultivation room next door, the female cultivator Jing Yun, who had also cultivated for 10 years, was still at the basic level of a low-level feather god. Her body was just a little stronger. The two of them walked out of the cultivation room at the same time. Jing Yun, who had some impression of Night Sorrow, noticed Night Sorrow's improvement, and was so shocked that she could not speak. She asked curiously, "What level of thunder did you use to refine your body?" "Nirvana level." "Why?" Night Sorrow answered truthfully. He was not very familiar with some things in the Endless Bone territory. He thought that the thunder was not too scary. "Nirvana level. It's the Nirvana level. Do you want to die? No wonder you can improve so quickly in 10 years. You really are a monster." Jing Yun's face was filled with shock. She was only using normal rank. Then she said, "My name is Jing Yun. What's your name? Can we form a team in the future?" "I'm Night Sorrow. I'm afraid it's not convenient to team up with you. There's an enemy with a body refinement level of a high-tier feather god blocking my path." Lung Qianqiu and her husband were definitely waiting outside. Night Sorrow naturally did not wish to harm anyone. "Upper feather god, you can't hold on. Perhaps I can help." She handed Night Sorrow a seashell and said, "This is a twin seashell from the Endless Bone realm. It can be used to transmit sound to each other. If you have any trouble, just call me." In fact, Jing Yun had a backer. Otherwise, a good-looking female cultivator like her would definitely not have her freedom in the Endless Bone domain. Perhaps it had already been taken over by some experts. "Thank you, but not for the time being. When you are in trouble, you can also try to call me. I will do my best to help." The other party was very friendly. Night Sorrow did not act cold. He took the seashell and said a few words before turning to leave, and walking out of the sky-reaching bone pagoda. His strength had increased. He felt that even if he could not defeat Lung Qianqiu's husband, he should be able to escape. Although his body refinement level had only increased by 20%, his strength had increased greatly. As soon as he walked out of the bone pagoda, Night Sorrow saw Lung Qianqiu waiting not far away. "You're finally out." Seeing Night Sorrow's figure, Lung Qianqiu said fiercely. Then he looked at the strong man beside him and said, "Husband, help me kill him." "Is that him?" "Simple. He's just a weakling with a low-tier feather god body refinement level." The strong male cultivator was called Rocky Mountain. His muscles were like rocks, giving off a sense of strength. His body refinement level was at the genuine high-tier feather god level. "You want to kill me? It might not be easy." Facing Lung Qianqiu and Rocky Mountain, he mocked. Lung Qianqiu, you were once the law enforcement captain of High Bay City. An influential figure. How could you accept being molested by another man? I really can't figure it out. You haven't experienced it, so you naturally don't understand. I still have to thank you for letting me find my true self. But today, you will die without a doubt. A trace of coldness flashed across the brows of the cross-dressing Lung Qianqiu. But when he turned his head to look at Rocky Mountain, it turned into worship again. This stone man knows demonic arts? Or is Lung Qianqiu too despicable? The other party's performance almost made Night Sorrow collapse. He thought to himself that this was a little too disgusting. It was better to fight. It was a good opportunity to test the improvement of these 10 years. If you want to kill me, then make your move. Night Sorrow was clear that in the area of the 4 powerhouses, only by paying a high price would one be protected. He did not have this kind of treatment at all. The other party could totally make a move against him. You're quite confident? It's just that your body refinement level is only at the low-tier feather god level. It's not worth me making a move. Rocky Mountain had some self-restraint and did not make a move directly. Instead, he looked at a subordinate beside him and said, Yuan Hui, go and help me kill him. Yes, boss. The male cultivator called Yuan Hui was a mid-level feather god. His body was not as exaggerated as Rocky Mountain's, but he was still taller than Night Sorrow by a head. Hearing Rocky Mountain's words, he took a few steps forward and looked at Night Sorrow. You're just a low-level feather god, yet you have the confidence to challenge our boss. You're too naive. Watch how I cut you down. Whether I'm overconfident or not, we'll know in a fight. Night Sorrow did not care about a mid-level feather god, but he had already secretly decided to use the power of virtue against Yuan Hui. Good. Then I'll teach you a lesson in blood. Yuan Hui had an explosive personality. With a roar, he charged toward Night Sorrow and used the strength of his body to punch out. He could not use his divine essence or soul strength at all. The battles in the Endless Bone realm were much more primitive than in the God realm. Good. Then let's have a good fight. In the face of Yuan Hui's ferocious punch, Night Sorrow felt a surge of vigor that he hadn't felt in a long time. He also punched back. Strength against strength. Crack. The two collided, and Yuan Hui was pushed back dozens of miles. Cracks appeared on the back of his hand and arm. Very strong. Night Sorrow, who had the upper hand, did not take half a step back. In the God realm, he could easily kill a mid-level feather god, but this Yuan Hui gave him a feeling that he would not be easy to deal with. He did not suffer any fatal injuries. This kid is quite strong. If I'd known, I would have used my full strength. Yuan Hui, who had suffered a loss, cursed and charged forward once more. This time, I will use my full strength. Prepare to die. You might not be able to force me to use my full strength even if you use your full strength. In the face of this aggressive and explosive attack, Night Sorrow still didn't move. He waited in place. Die. The speed of a God Realm cultivator was not inferior to that of an ordinary God Realm cultivator. In the blink of an eye, Yuan Hui was in front of Night Sorrow. This time Night Sorrow, who had used 70% of his strength, was on par with Yuan Hui. What? He's so strong. Yuan Hui, who had not gained the upper hand, was a little stunned. He had used his full strength, but he did not know if his opponent had used his full strength. There were many people watching, and he felt that he had lost face. He roared angrily, "Kid! This time, you will die without a doubt." Secret Art Berserk. Chapter 2404. Yuan Hui did not deliberately enlarge his body, but after using the secret technique, his body immediately gave off an explosive feeling of power. In an instant, his aura gave off an incomparably powerful feeling, like a wild beast that had gone berserk. This is the secret technique exchanged from the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda. Night Sorrow had read the description of the Sky-Reaching Bone Pagoda, and knew that this secret technique was worth 5 million standard crystal cores. It could instantly increase the strength of a body cultivator by 3 times. However, after the secret technique ended, the cultivator would also suffer a considerable backlash, and would need to recuperate for many years to recover. I won't use the power of merit for the time being. Let's test the strength of my current body. Night Sorrow knew that after the other party used the secret technique, he was definitely not a match for him in terms of strength. He wanted to test his limits. After all, although body cultivators were of similar levels, the attributes of their bodies were different. He did not believe that he would be killed in an instant. This was the confidence that Night Sorrow had accumulated over a long period of time. You didn't dodge and chose to continue to fight me head-on. You're courting death. Go to hell. Yuan Hui, who attacked again, couldn't help but feel a little angry. As an ape cultivator, his temper was quite fiery. This time he used the most primitive attack of the ape race. He jumped into the air, and directly smashed down with his fists. The thunderous momentum was quite terrifying. So you're an ape. No wonder your body refinement talent is so high. Facing this attack, Night Sorrow did not panic. This time he did not hold back at all. He erupted with the strongest power in his body, and collided with Yuan Hui. Boom! Under the collision of the two, a huge pit was smashed into the ground. The pit was full of smoke and dust. Who won? Who won? The pit was very quiet. There was no sound at all. Since they couldn't use their divine soul power to probe, they couldn't see the situation in the deep pit clearly. Thus they couldn't remain calm. This was originally a battle with a difference in cultivation level, but now there was suspense. He should be dead this time, right? Lung Qianqiu said with hatred in his eyes. He wanted to completely bid farewell to the past. Seeing Night Sorrow reminded him of many unhappy memories. No, both of them are still alive. This Night Sorrow isn't an ordinary feather god. Stone Mountain shook his head. Others couldn't see clearly, but he knew what had happened. Only then did Lung Qianqiu see the result clearly when the smoke and dust in the pit dispersed. Night Sorrow was smashed into the deep pit, but he only suffered some minor injuries. Not even a single bone was broken. Yuan Hui, on the other hand, was badly mutilated from his arms down. Obviously, his fists had been smashed. It was obvious that he had the advantage in terms of strength, but Night Sorrow's body was stronger. You've won. Kill me. Yuan Hui didn't expect that he would lose to an opponent whose body refinement realm was lower than his. If you teach me Berserk, I'll spare your life. Night Sorrow didn't attack immediately. The violent secret technique made him very envious. Impossible. The ancient books exchanged from the sky-reaching bone pagoda could not be passed on. Hurry up and do it. Yuan Hui closed his eyes and waited for death to come. Forget it. You can leave. To me, you're no match at all. You're no threat. Yuan Hui was also ordered by someone. There was no enmity between them, so Night Sorrow didn't kill him. The next time we meet, I'll defeat you. Yuan Hui turned and left. He returned to Stone Mountain and said, Boss, I lost. I'll need many years to recover. I can't help you in battle in the future. It's not your fault. He's too strong. Go find a place to recover your body. I'll take care of the rest. Stone Mountain's eyes weren't weak. He could see that Night Sorrow's attributes weren't simple. It couldn't be measured by body refinement realm alone. He looked at Night Sorrow and said coldly, Now you're qualified for me to attack. But you just fought, so I'll give you time to recover. There's no need. I don't have much time to waste on the two of you. If you choose to fight, then let's fight now. His body didn't suffer any major injuries, and he didn't use his power of virtue. Night Sorrow felt that he still had the confidence to fight. There was only one thing that Night Sorrow felt strange. This Stone Mountain clearly looked like a middle-level feather god, but Lung Qianqiu said that he was an upper-level feather god. Okay, as you wish. Stone Mountain didn't hesitate at all. Like a fierce beast, he ran wildly towards Night Sorrow. It was reasonable to say that Stone Mountain was much stronger than Yuan Hui. His speed should be faster, but that wasn't the case. He used the most primitive physical attack, and didn't deliberately accelerate. The two fought, and a more pure and primitive battle began. Facing Stone Mountain, Night Sorrow no longer held back and directly used his power of virtue. With the power of virtue, Night Sorrow's strength increased greatly. Even facing Stone Mountain, he wasn't at a disadvantage. Soon the two fought for hundreds of rounds. The result was a tie. In the process of the battle, Stone Mountain held back at the beginning, but in the end, he used his full strength. However, he still couldn't take down Night Sorrow. How can he be so strong? He can use such a strange power in the Endless Bone Realm. What kind of power is this? During the battle, Stone Mountain became more and more alarmed, but he still didn't use any of his trump cards. In fact, it wasn't just Stone Mountain. Many cultivators didn't know what the power of virtue was. Moreover, they were very murderous. Even if they killed skeletons in the Endless Bone Realm, they wouldn't obtain any power of virtue. What kind of power are you using? Stone Mountain couldn't help but ask the moment the two separated. Power of virtue. I'm the feather god of virtue. Night Sorrow didn't hide and told the truth. He felt that the title of Feather God of Virtue was more appropriate than Feather God of Virtue. You're very strong, but you must die today. Today we won't rest until one of us is dead. Stone Mountain admired Night Sorrow's methods, but Night Sorrow and Lung Qianqiu were irreconcilable enemies. This was something he couldn't accept. Thus, he used the secret technique Berserk and instantly increased his strength by a lot. Stone Mountain was much stronger than Yuan Hui. The strength of his body were not something Yuan Hui could compare to. Facing the Berserk Stone Mountain, Night Sorrow didn't dare to be careless and used his speed to dodge. He had no problem fighting Yuan Hui head-on, but he would die miserably if he fought Stone Mountain like that. The original Night Sorrow had already used all his strength, and was barely able to be on par with Stone Mountain. Bastard! Aren't you very tough? Why don't you dare to take my attacks? Under Night Sorrow's deliberate dodging, Stone Mountain almost couldn't attack. His attacks missed, making him extremely depressed. This was because after the secret technique Berserk, he would suffer a huge backlash. If he couldn't kill Night Sorrow in a short time, he would be in danger. How can this be? Why is Night Sorrow's close combat ability so strong? How long has it been, and he can already fight against a veteran powerhouse? Chapter 2405. Stone Mountain was Lung Qianqiu's greatest support. If he died at the hands of Night Sorrow, it would be difficult for him to survive in the Endless Bone Realm. As for his life, Lung Qianqiu wasn't worried for the time being. He had already paid the protection fee for 10,000 years. He didn't believe that Night Sorrow had the courage to kill him. After all, the four powerhouses of the Endless Bone Realm were mythical existences. No one dared to break the rules they set. While Lung Qianqiu was worried, the battle between Night Sorrow and Stone Mountain was still ongoing. Without the support of divine Yuan Qi or a divine artifact, the battle between the two wasn't as dazzling as it was in the divine realm. However, the intensity wasn't low at all. There was some primitive wildness that made one's blood boil. This brat is so difficult to deal with. How can he be a lesser feather god? Stone Mountain, whose strength was about the same as Night Sorrow's, grew more and more alarmed. If he didn't use Berserk, he definitely wouldn't lose. But now, if he couldn't kill Yi Sorrow quickly, his life would be in danger once the Berserk ended and the backlash came. This was a very awkward situation. I can only use that secret manual. Seeing that Night Sorrow's speed hadn't decreased at all, Stone Mountain was starting to panic. He decided to use another secret manual he had exchanged from the Bone Pagoda. The secret manual's name was Taotai. It required one to pay the price of a lower rank in body refinement to temporarily gain great strength. Using this secret manual would temporarily raise Stone Mountain's strength to the level of a half-step high god. But after the secret manual ended, he would drop to the level of an intermediate feather god. It would take a long time to cultivate back. But compared to failure and death, Stone Mountain felt that the price was worth it. Secret Taotai. After thinking about it for a moment, Yin Shan roared out without hesitation. In an instant his body, which was already full of explosive power, became even more powerful. There were even energy fluctuations on his body. His strength soared and his body refinement reached the level of a half-step high god. I'm so much stronger all of a sudden. My speed has also increased by several times. What secret manual is this? It seems I'll have to accumulate more crystal cores in the future to exchange for a few manuals. These secret techniques are simply too heaven-defying. Night Sorrow couldn't help but feel envious of Stone Mountain, who was now a half-step high god. If he could increase his strength by several times, he might even be able to kill Stone Mountain in an instant. Just as Night Sorrow's thoughts were active, the roaring cliff mountain had already attacked. With the increase in speed, it was no longer possible for Night Sorrow to dodge. He could only grit his teeth and fight back. Soon visible cracks appeared on Night Sorrow's fists and fingers. They were in danger of shattering at any moment. Good. Kill him. Husband, kill him quickly. Don't give him any chance. Seeing that Night Sorrow had fallen into a passive state, Lung Qianqiu immediately shouted with a smile. Humph. Stone Mountain, who had paid a huge price to obtain great power, immediately frowned when he saw Lung Qianqiu smiling. However, he continued to attack Night Sorrow, putting a lot of pressure on Night Sorrow. If you can pay the price, why can't I? The pressure was unbearable, so Yi Shan decided to be ruthless. He once again broke off his left arm, and used the boundless body forging art to absorb the energy. Although his left arm was broken, his speed increased and his body became much lighter. Although he was still being suppressed, he was no longer in such a sorry state. There was no way he could beat Stone Mountain in a head-on clash. Night Sorrow could only rely on speed to delay. Thus, the situation once again fell into a deadlock. However, in reality, as long as Night Sorrow continued to persevere and wait for Stone Mountain's secret technique to end, he would win. Husband, why can't you even kill a lesser feather god? Lung Qianqiu, who had thought that Night Sorrow would soon die, shouted with a gloomy expression. Stop, I'm not fighting anymore. I won't interfere in the matters between the two of you. At this moment, Stone Mountain unexpectedly stopped. It had been less than 5 breaths since he had used the secret technique. You fight when you want to and stop when you want to? How is that possible? You have to pay the price for attacking me. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? Hearing Stone Mountain's words, Night Sorrow revealed a trace of a cold smile. He thought to himself, this secret technique of yours is actually going to end so quickly. If he could not withstand the attack just now, he would definitely be killed by the other party. Now that Stone Mountain wanted to stop, how could he give him the chance? It's my turn now. Night Sorrow roared and fought with Stone Mountain again. As he expected, Stone Mountain's secret technique ended very quickly. After it ended, Stone Mountain even struggled to stand. How could he be Night Sorrow's match? He was directly blown apart by him. Seeing Stone Mountain die in battle, Lung Qianqiu's expression immediately changed drastically. He prepared to escape, but he immediately thought of paying the protection fee. Seeing Night Sorrow chasing after him, Lung Qianqiu threatened loudly, I've already paid 10,000 years of protection fee. Try touching me if you dare. Don't talk about 10,000 years of protection fee. Even if you paid 10,000 reincarnations, I'll still kill you. How could Night Sorrow let Lung Qianqiu, who conspired to obtain the heavenly Samsara halberd and formed a grudge with him, off the hook? However, just as he was about to attack, a team led by an upper-level feather god and composed of lower-level feather gods blocked Lung Qianqiu's path. You want to break the rules and kill someone? Are you provoking my lord? Do you believe that we won't kill you immediately? The upper-level feather god threatened. He had seen Night Sorrow's fierce performance in the battle just now. However, relying on the fact that he was Feng Ling's subordinate, he had a sense of superiority. Rules? Killing someone under your care is a violation of the rules? According to that, as long as my enemy pays you a fee, I can never touch them? And they can attack me at will? Night Sorrow asked with a sneer. The rules are like this. If you're not convinced, you can find our Lord Feng Ling to reason with him. The upper-level feather god leading the team, Fengjiu, said disdainfully. Rules? That's your rules. I, Night Sorrow, have rules. Whoever provokes me must die. The rules of Seaside City were more or less reasonable, and were basically fair. Night Sorrow abided by them. The rules of the sky-piercing bone pagoda were equivalent exchanges. Night Sorrow also abided by them. However, Night Sorrow did not want to give face to Feng Ling's rules. As he spoke, he directly attacked. He passed through the crowd protecting Lung Qianqiu and blasted him apart. Lung Qianqiu had the strength of a half-step high deity outside, but in the endless bone realm, he had no ability to resist at all. And Night Sorrow had not only blasted Lung Qianqiu apart, he had also blasted apart the rules set by Feng Ling with one punch. Audacious! You dare to break our Lord's rules? There will be no place for you in this endless bone realm. Kill him. Seeing Night Sorrow kill someone in front of him, Fengjiu immediately flew into a rage. It had been many years since anyone dared to make a move in Feng Ling's territory. You want to kill me with just the likes of you? Dream on. His physical condition was not very good. Moreover, this place was Feng Ling's territory. He absolutely could not continue fighting. Chapter 2406. The sky-reaching bone pagoda was some distance away from East Valley City. Night Sorrow rushed all the way without any delay. But when he arrived at East Valley City, the Xiaocoatl King was still captured. Feng Ling's men had a way to transmit telepathy, and had already put him on the wanted list. The Xiaocoatl King had been in contact with Night Sorrow before, so it was easy to find out. Now the Xiaocoatl King had been beaten half to death, hanging at the entrance of East Valley City, being ravaged by the soul-devouring evil wind. He had less than half of his life left, hanging outside the valley without anyone watching over him. Aren't you afraid that I'll save him? There must be a reason for this abnormality. Night Sorrow stopped thousands of miles away from the periphery of the valley and observed. After waiting for half a month, there was still no sign of a guard. No matter what, I have to do it directly. If I delay any longer, the Xiaocoatl King will become jerky. Night Sorrow, who knew that he could not wait any longer, exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and rushed to the place where the Xiaocoatl King was hanging. He was very fast, like a bolt of lightning. There are no formations. I can save him directly. After getting closer, Night Sorrow confirmed that there were no formations nearby, and no one was lying in ambush. He rushed to the Xiacoatl king, put him down, picked him up, and left. Yes, sir. He did not expect Night Sorrow to rush out to save his Xiacoatl king. He was obviously surprised. He thought that he would die here. After all, most of the people in the Endless Bone region were of inferior character. You should recover well. Night Sorrow actually had a selfish motive for saving the Xiacoatl king. After all, he was very interested in the area where the formation was located. After finding a safe area for the Xiacoatl king to rest, Night Sorrow asked, "Why didn't they send someone to guard you when they hung you up there? Why did they let me save you so easily?" Sir. That's because they found something more important to do. The Xiacoatl king sighed and said, "Sir, I'm sorry. I revealed the formation where the body-tempering treasured book is. I was just protecting myself." "I see. It's not your fault. I implicated you. I won't mistreat you in the future." Looks like the powerhouses under Fengling should have all headed for that grand array. However, it is very strange that they did not kill you to silence you. After hearing the Xiacoatl king's description, Night Sorrow understood what was going on. Anyone who could cultivate a paramount god's body-refining tome would be interested in it. Most likely, even high feather gods would go to the array formation to try their luck. As for the weaker ones, they were of no threat to Night Sorrow, so there was no point in staying. However, it did not make sense for them to not kill the Python King. "My lord, they actually wanted to kill me, but a senior who was drinking with me last time drove them away," the Xiacoatl king hurriedly explained. "Then I really have to thank Brother Emo, the Python King. Once you've recovered, I'll send you to the area under the jurisdiction of other experts. During this process, tell me the location of the formation, and all the things I need to pay attention to in the formation." After pondering for a moment, Night Sorrow said, "My lord, this time, it was very likely that the other party would send over tens of thousands of cultivators who had reached the deity realm. Fengling might go too. If you go alone, it's tantamount to walking into a trap." The Xiacoatl king hurriedly advised. He still had to rely on Night Sorrow in the future, so he naturally did not want him to throw his life away. "You're right. I can't be a moth to a flame. However, it's impossible for me to give up on this opportunity." Night Sorrow thought for a moment. "Since I'll be throwing my life away if I go alone, then let's muddy the waters. Instead of benefiting Fengling's people, it's better to make this matter known to the entire Endless Bone region. If this matter was made public, countless people would rush into the array formation. In the face of mutual hostility, Night Sorrow would not be so conspicuous. He might even be able to fish in troubled waters." Taking out the twin shells that the female cultivator, Jingyun, had given him, Night Sorrow transmitted. "Jingyun, can you hear me? Night Sorrow, I heard that you offended Fengling's people at the sky-piercing bone pagoda? Things are getting out of hand." Jingyun quickly replied. Actually, she was cultivating at the moment, but she interrupted him immediately. "Yes, I killed an enemy in front of them." Night Sorrow could tell that Jingyun was not one of Fengling's people. He asked, "Are you a loose cultivator, or are you following a few great experts?" "I'm Lord Jinghong's subordinate." "Lord Jinghong is one of the 4 great experts," Jingyun replied. "Jinghong Jingyun. Don't tell me you have some kinship with Jinghong?" Night Sorrow asked. However, he felt that it was unlikely because Jinghong was so strong. If they were related, under his care, Jingyun's body refinement level should not be a basic low-level feather god. "Hey, I want to get close to Lord Jinghong, but he's elusive. It's impossible to meet him," Jingyun explained and asked, "Yishang, are you looking for me because you've run into trouble? Are you surrounded by Fengling's people? Do you need me to rescue you? Although I'm not strong enough, I know a few high-level feather god experts." "Yes, I'm trapped in a valley by them. I need someone to rescue me. There are 3 high-level feather god experts under Fengling. I'm no match for them. 2 fists were no match for 4 hands." Yishan wanted to find a trustworthy partner for this trip. The first person he thought of was Mo Qianqian, but he couldn't contact that old man. He could only settle for the next best thing, which was to cooperate with Jingyun. However, They were not familiar with each other, so he had to sound her out. 3 high-level feather gods? No problem. Hide well. I'll bring people over immediately. Jingyun said without hesitation, and walked out of the cultivation room. It didn't take long for 5 feather gods to gather together. Young miss, is it worth it to offend Feng Ling in order to save a loose cultivator? A white-faced male cultivator asked in confusion as they headed to Night Sorrow's location. His name was Ling Tian, and his body refinement level was at the high-level feather god level. He was not far from half-step high god, and was the strongest in the group. It's worth it, definitely worth it. Night Sorrow is a rare genius. I think his future won't be worse than my brother's. Jingyun said with certainty. Her brother was one of the 4 great experts of the Endless Bone Realm, Jinghong. Isn't that a bit exaggerated? Ling Tian said in disbelief. He didn't believe that someone could catch up to the ruler Jinghong. Exaggerated? It's not exaggerated at all. You've heard about Night Sorrow's battle with Stone Mountain, right? Then do you know that Night Sorrow's body refinement level is at the low-level feather god level? A low-level feather god against a high-level feather god, and with the other party using all their trump cards, it ended in a draw. Who can do such a thing? Jingyun asked with a serious expression. What? That Night Sorrow who dared to kill people in Feng Ling's territory is at the low-level feather god level. Ling Tian was stunned. Even if the cultivators in the Endless Bone Realm had divine artifacts, they could not activate them and could only fight as ordinary weapons. Chapter 2407. Night Sorrow was a lower-level feather god. Fighting with Stone Mountain, who was an upper-level feather god, was not just an ordinary cross-level battle. If he could contend with an upper-level feather god at this level, wouldn't he be able to wrestle with a half-step high god when he advanced to an intermediate feather god? He was simply a monster. That's not all. I saw with my own eyes that he advanced from the basic feather god level to 20% of a lower-level feather god level in 10 years. This kind of cultivation speed can no longer be described as terrifying. It's simply abnormal. It's never appeared in the Endless Bone region. Jingyun praised as she walked, and continued. Even my brother relied on the accumulation of several reincarnations to advance to a half-step high feather god level. But in my opinion, with Night Sorrow's cultivation speed, it won't take long for him to advance to an upper-level feather god level. At that time, Jingyun didn't want to say anything else. In her opinion, Night Sorrow would definitely have a place in the Endless Bone region in the future. This is indeed somewhat. Ling Tian, who had wanted to say something, was speechless. After calming down, he said, "We must save such a person. If he doesn't die prematurely, he will definitely rise in the future. Perhaps he will really become one of the strongest. If he becomes one of the strongest and is still our friend, then the Endless Bone region may very well be our world in the future." Jingyun nodded. Then, she thought of something and added, "I know you are all geniuses and have unruly personalities. Apart from my brother, you won't submit to anyone. But when you come into contact with Night Sorrow, I hope you can be more polite." "Okay, I understand." Ling Tian nodded. The others also agreed. As for whether they took it to heart, no one knew. "We're here. Prepare for battle." As they approached the valley that Night Sorrow had mentioned, Jingyun ordered the experts who had come with her to prepare. She really brought people here, and they really aren't here to help Feng Ling catch me. Night Sorrow, who was watching from afar, saw the other party's performance and immediately had a good impression. However, he did not move. When Jingyun took out the twin shell, Night Sorrow slowly walked out of the valley. "Why do I feel like no one from Feng Ling has been here before?" Seeing Night Sorrow calmly walk out of the valley, Ling Tian couldn't help but mutter. "Don't talk nonsense. You have to believe in Night Sorrow," Jingyun said immediately. Thinking about what he had said previously, Ling Tian did not say much. At this moment, Night Sorrow, who heard their discussion, smiled and said, "Indeed, I wasn't surrounded by Feng Ling's men." At this point, Yishang had originally wanted to continue explaining about the Great Array and the body-tempering cultivation technique. Beside Jingyun, a burly man suddenly said angrily, "Then are you playing with us for no reason? Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you have some talent." His name was Ho-Lai, and his original form was that of a Ho. A Ho was the bane of dragons, and he liked to eat their brains. There were rumors that a Ho could fight against 3 dragons and 2 flood dragons. I'm not deliberately playing with you. I have something important to say, Night Sorrow explained. Since Jingyan treated him as a friend, he was naturally very polite and spoke in a calm tone. However, Ho-Lai did not listen to his explanation and said, I don't care what excuses you have. Since you played with me, you have to fight. Ho-Lai, don't be rude. We are friends, not enemies. On the way, she was still talking about not provoking Night Sorrow. Now that Ho-Lai wanted to fight, Jingyun's expression changed. It's fine. Seeing Jingyun's embarrassment, Night Sorrow smiled and continued, Ho-Lai, right? Do you want to spar, or do you want to fight to the death? He cultivated the power of merit, and could sense that Ho-Lai did not want to kill him. Instead, he was naturally warlike and wanted to spar. You are Jingyun's friend, so I naturally won't kill you. I heard that you are quite strong, so I want to give it a try. Ho-Lai had doubts about Night Sorrow's strength. Moreover, he was naturally warlike and wanted to fight anyone he met. However, when he spoke, he was very blunt. All right, then let's fight. In the past few days, Night Sorrow had already recovered from his injuries. With the experience of fighting against an upper-level feather god, he naturally would not be afraid to fight. Following that, under the watchful eyes of everyone, the battle between Night Sorrow and Ho-Lai ended in a draw. During the battle, Night Sorrow did not use his full strength. Ho-Lai also did not transform into his true form. His true form was much stronger than a human's combat strength. Good. You can indeed fight an upper-level feather god with a lower-level feather god's body refinement level. You are a genius. I, Ho-Lai, admire you. Although he had held back during the battle, Ho-Lai was very satisfied with Night Sorrow's performance and gave him respect. After all, even he could not fight someone 2 levels above him. Brother Ho-Lai, you flatter me. Night Sorrow cupped his fists and said politely. After Ho-Lai's probing, everyone present confirmed Night Sorrow's ability and potential. Their originally tense attitudes became better, and they greeted him one after another. At this moment, Night Sorrow opened his mouth and said, I won't hide it from everyone. It's like this. Then he told them about the Great Formation and said, You are all Lord Jinghong's subordinates. I feel that we should tell Lord Jinghong about this matter, and then decide on the 2 sides. It's better to publicize this matter, and let everyone in the Endless Bone region know. Let's start a big chaotic battle, okay? About this matter. If we don't publicize it, the probability of obtaining the body refinement treasured book will be higher. However, the casualties may be disastrous. Ling Tian analyzed. Jingyan said, This matter must be publicized. Because only then will the situation in the Endless Bone region not change. Think about it. If Lord Jinghong and Feng Ling fight, won't both sides be injured? If both of them are injured, it is very likely that they will be targeted by the other 2 experts. What you said makes sense. Ling Tian nodded. This was also what he was thinking. Ho-Lai also echoed. That's the reason. A body refinement treasured book that could be cultivated to high deity was absolutely something that could make anyone covet in the Endless Bone region. As long as it was publicized, a big chaotic battle would be unavoidable. However, if the 4 great forces all participated, the situation in the Endless Bone region would still be balanced. What you all said makes sense. Night Sorrow nodded and asked, Then it's decided. Also, I want to form a team with everyone. What do you all think? After this matter was publicized, the Great Formation would be very chaotic. It would be very difficult for one person to stand. Since I treat you as a friend, I'm naturally willing to form a team with you. Moreover, compared to the others, you should have a better understanding of the Great Formation. Forming a team with you won't be at a disadvantage. Therefore, I'm willing to form a team with you and search for opportunities. Without any hesitation, Jingyan directly nodded and agreed. Since she agreed, the others also did not object. The matter was decided just like that. Chapter 2408. What? There's a body refinement manual in the bone region that can be cultivated to the high god level? Are you sure? Hearing his sister's voice transmission, Jing Hong, who was originally cultivating in the heaven-reaching bone pagoda, immediately stood up. Jing Hong's body refinement level was already infinitely close to the high god level, but there was only a thin layer of window paper that could not be pierced through. The main problem was that there was no suitable body refinement manual. Hearing Jing Yun's words, how could he still be calm? I'm not 100% sure. But there's a lot of hope. Feng Ling's people are already rushing over. Jing Yun said truthfully. Even the Python King was not completely sure what grade the body refinement manual on the altar was. There's a lot of hope. That's enough. You guys go check it out first. I'll gather people immediately. Jing Hong did not delay and directly left the heaven-reaching bone pagoda. He returned to the area under his command and gathered the strongest subordinates. Everyone, Lord Jing Hong has already gone to gather people and sent people to spread the news. He'll be here soon. Let's go check it out first. Jing Yun stopped communicating with Jing Hong and immediately explained the situation to Night Sorrow and the others. Good. We know the route and can go at any time. Night Sorrow responded and continued. But before that, I want to ask you guys to do something. What is it? There's no harm in saying it directly, Ho Lai said straightforwardly. I heard that there are divine artifacts in the Endless Bone region. I need a higher grade spear. That will increase my battle strength by a lot. Entering the array, who knew what kind of killing scene they would encounter? Night Sorrow wanted to further equip himself. In Haibei City, he had comprehended the simple 10 spear moves. It was best to use them in the Endless Bone region. You can't use your divine Yuan Qi. Even if you have a divine artifact, it won't increase your battle strength by much, right? Ling Tian frowned. In the Endless Bone region, divine artifacts were extremely rare and not easy to obtain. If he delayed important matters for a spear, the gains would not make up for the losses. My Tao of the spear is different from ordinary people. I've comprehended a trace of the essence of the Tao of the spear. Even if I don't use my divine Yuan Qi, the might of my attacks wouldn't be low. Night Sorrow explained. He had absolute confidence in his Tao of the spear. Upon hearing this, Zhu Yunxia, the only female cultivator in the group other than Jing Yun, said, I happen to have a 7 Tribulation Thunder Divine Spear in my residence in West Abyss City. It's just that I don't know if Brother Night Sorrow can control it without using Divine Yuan Qi. 7 Lightning Tribulation Feather Divine Spears. Even if she used her Divine Yuan Qi, it was not easy to control them. Her worries were reasonable. It should be fine. If you can't control it, I won't mention the divine artifact again. Night Sorrow cupped his fists together. I hope that everyone will forgive me for the delay. I'm fine. With one more trick up our sleeve, we'll have one more way to protect ourselves. Jing Yun nodded and gave the order. There's no time to lose. Let's go. Under Zhu Yunxia's lead, Night Sorrow's group arrived at the West Abyss City under Jing Hong's jurisdiction and retrieved the 7-streak Lightning Tribulation Feather Divine Spear. The 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear. Good spear. The 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear's body seemed as if it had been poured out of ink. It felt twice as heavy as the Blood-Kirin Evil Vanquishing Spear. Although it wasn't a divine artifact that he had personally refined, it was still very convenient to use as an external weapon. Night Sorrow estimated that with this 1,000 Catty Demon Subduing Spear, he wouldn't be able to fight Stone Mountain or Ho Lai to a draw again. Jing Yun and the others all praised Night Sorrow's divine strength. But time was of the essence and no one spoke any nonsense. They rushed straight to the mountain valley where the great array was. After all, the slower they were, the higher the chance that the body refinement manual would be taken away. Feng Ling's people must have set up many sentries along the way. We must be careful. If we are discovered, try not to fight. If we encounter anyone who is alone, capture them alive and ask them about their arrangements. Ling Tian was the highest level body refiner present, so he naturally arranged all sorts of matters. All right. Everyone cooperated with him. As they got closer and closer to the mountain valley where the great array was, their words became more and more refined. The soul-devouring evil wind that blew around them was quite fierce. Jing Yun, who was the weakest, couldn't even bear it. I'm too weak. I'm afraid I can't go. Jing Yun was originally the most eager to try, but the others were all upper-level feather gods, while she was only a lower-level feather god. She couldn't keep up. That's a problem. Ling Tian and Ho Lai both frowned. It's fine. Follow me. We'll be careful. There shouldn't be a problem. Seeing Jing Yun's unwilling expression, Knight Sorrow walked to her side and used his power of virtue to form some protection for her. Immediately, the soul-devouring evil wind's influence lessened. Thank you. Feeling the resistance lessen, Jing Yun was delighted. After all, fortuitous opportunities weren't determined by strength. As long as they entered, there would be a chance. Seeing that Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun were very close to each other, Ling Tian's expression was a little unnatural, but he quickly adjusted. It's fine. We're a team. We should fight side by side and not give up on anyone. Knight Sorrow said politely and continued. The Python King told me that there are 2 entrances to this formation. He only said one. We'll go around and enter from the other one. It'll be safer this way. Okay, that's the best. Jing Yun nodded in agreement. Hearing this news, the others were also quite happy. The group carefully began to make a detour toward the valley. Not good. There's someone. However, when they were still hundreds of thousands of miles away from the valley, Knight Sorrow saw 6 or 7 cultivators on the highest mountain in the valley looking around. Along the way, there were also Fengling's people. There was almost 1 sentry in 1,000 miles, and they were quite densely distributed. If they weren't careful, they would be discovered. What should we do? Fengling's people are so densely distributed. Are we going to force our way in? Ling Tian frowned. Without a doubt, Jing Hong's main force hadn't arrived yet. It would be very dangerous for them to force their way in. After all, no one knew what was going on inside the formation. Wait a moment. I'll contact Lord Jing Hong again. At this moment, Jing Yun asked everyone to hold back and then communicated with Jing Hong. After the communication, Jing Yun's face revealed a trace of joy. She said, this time the 4 powerhouses have discussed. They won't make a move and only let their subordinates participate in the fight. As long as Fengling doesn't come, we should have a chance. This will indeed increase our chances of success. We can't break through the defense of the 4 powerhouses at all. Any one of them can crush countless people. Without them, although the competition is still very big, there's still a trace of chance. Ling Tian's face was also filled with joy. Don't be careless. I don't think things are that simple. Chapter 2409. You're worrying too much. No one, including the 4 of them, has ever gone against the decision of the 4 powerhouses after their discussion. Otherwise, if they get angry, the Endless Bone Region's factions will definitely be reshuffled. Ling Tian shook his head, thinking that Knight Sorrow was overthinking things. All right. Knight Sorrow nodded and didn't continue speaking. However, he thought to himself, they might not make a move now. But if they really do have a body-tempering scripture that can allow one to cultivate to the high god level, they might be able to. That's hard to say. After all, the 4 powerhouses in the Endless Bone region said that some of them had broken through to the high god level, but there was no confirmation. The most likely scenario was that they were all close to breaking through to the high god level. Whoever broke through first would be invincible in the Endless Bone region. Under such circumstances, wouldn't they come out to snatch the scripture? Impossible. No matter what, this is a rare opportunity. Let's go in first. Zhu Yunxia said. The earlier they went in, the higher their chances of obtaining a fortuitous opportunity. Everyone understood this logic. All right. Then let's take a risk. Ling Tian replied. Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun follow behind. Yunxia, you protect them. Ho Lai, Jiang Pingyang, Geng Chen follow me. We'll clear out the sentries. The strongest among them is only a low-level feather god. There's nothing to be afraid of. However, we mustn't alert them. Jiang Pingyang was a pale-faced, scholarly cultivator. However, he was already a high-level feather god. His strength couldn't be underestimated. The other person in the group was a burly, dark-faced man named Geng Chen. He was originally a water gloom. However, a water gloom turned into a flood dragon after 5 million years, a flood dragon after 10 million years, a horn dragon after another 5 million years, and a winged dragon after 10 million years. After cultivating for so many years, he had already become a winged dragon. After that, he cultivated into a human. Although he kept a low profile and didn't speak, his strength shouldn't be much weaker than Ling Tian's. If we're discovered, we'll stake it all and charge in. The people outside won't be able to stop us. The closer they got, the more tense the atmosphere became. Ling Tian's voice also became lower. All right. Jing Yun and the others became alert. When they encountered the first patrol squad, they didn't give them a chance at all because they were all high-tier divine feathers. Just like that, the 6 members of the patrol team were all killed silently. There doesn't seem to be any difficulty, Ling Tian, who had killed 2 low-level feather gods in an instant, said softly. He felt that everyone was being too cautious. That's right. Look at the other patrol teams. They didn't even notice what happened here. Olai nodded. No, we have to speed up. If I'm not wrong, we'll be discovered in 10 breaths of time. Night Sorrow, who suddenly felt that something was wrong, quickly explained. Observe carefully. These teams are actually very well coordinated. They will change positions every 10 breaths. Any problem with any squad would be discovered within 10 breaths of time. We have to rush over quickly. How is that possible? I'm afraid you're worrying for nothing. If you can see anything, why didn't you say so before you charged over? Ling Tian immediately questioned. There's no time to explain. We must rush to the entrance immediately. A few breaths of time was not long, but for cultivators of their level, it was enough for them to travel a great distance. No. We have to bide our time and wait for the next opportunity. Let's wait for the next opportunity. Ling Yun shook his head and told everyone to go into hiding. He felt that Night Sorrow was purposely making his presence known and not giving him face. He was a little angry. Sigh. We missed the opportunity. If not for the need to protect Jing Yun, Night Sorrow would have rushed to the entrance just now. A few breaths of time passed quickly. Just as everyone was in hiding, an ear-piercing horn sounded. Although Feng Ling's subordinates didn't discover their location, they discovered that a small team had been destroyed. Hundreds of cultivators were rushing in this direction. What do we do? Ling Tian. We were discovered. Jing Yun said worriedly. It's fine. It's fine even if we were discovered. The other party is a low-level feather god. There's nothing to worry about. Ling Tian said nonchalantly. He didn't care about the patrol team in front of him at all. At this time Gung Chun, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, Not good. The other party has more than one high-level feather god. His eye of the winged dragon was very special. He could see the strength of a cultivator from very far away. The high-level feather god he was talking about naturally referred to the level of his body tempering. How many are there? Ling Tian asked hurriedly. We've discovered 10 so far. Twice as many as we have. They're prepared. We've probably fallen into an ambush. Gung Chun sighed. 10? So many. Hearing this, not only was Ling Tian slightly astonished, even Yi Shang's expression changed slightly. The difference in strength between the two sides seemed a little too big. If they were really surrounded, it would be very difficult to break out. What should we do? Charge in or retreat? Jing Yun looked at Ling Tian. If we retreat before going in, wouldn't we have come for nothing? Let's charge. How could Ling Tian, who was obviously interested in Jing Yun, say anything about retreating? He gave the order and rushed out. How brainless! Seeing Ling Tian rush out, Night Sorrow was speechless. He thought to himself, if we ambush them and wait for them to get close, we might be able to kill 2 or 3 high-level feather gods in an instant. Now that he was exposed, Feng Ling's people had the advantage. However, since someone rushed out, Night Sorrow and the others couldn't just watch and quickly followed. Because they had to protect Jing Yun, Night Sorrow was at the back. Enemy attack. Everyone be careful. 6 or 7 people boldly rushed out. Naturally, they were immediately discovered by Feng Ling's men. The 10 high-level feather gods immediately chased after them. Seeing that there were only 5 high-level feather gods and 2 low-level feather gods, the leading cultivator, Chang Haoyan, laughed sinisterly. Sure enough, a fish has taken the bait. Let's kill to our heart's content today. Those two female cultivators are good-looking. Leave them to me. A pale-faced male cultivator licked his lips. Female cultivators were originally rare goods in the endless bone realm, and Ruthless Scorpion was a lecher. Scram. Since there are beautiful ladies, of course we should all have fun together. We can't let you enjoy them alone. A male cultivator, whose height wasn't shorter than a low-level feather god skeleton, chopped down a skeleton that had just drilled out of the ground and cursed. When they got closer, Mihaoyan's eyes lit up. That low-level feather god female cultivator is Jing Hong's younger sister, Jing Yun. If we capture her alive and hand her over to the leader, we'll definitely be rewarded handsomely. It really is her. Ruthless Scorpion's eyes also lit up. If they captured Jing Hong's younger sister, they would indeed have made a great contribution. He smiled. You guys hold back the others. I'll capture her first. Chapter 24:10. Don't worry, I'm not stupid. However, I can't avoid taking advantage of her. Tyrannical Scorpion said with an evil expression. That's fine. Do as you wish. Mihaoyan replied and ordered, let's go. At his command, the 10 high-rank feather gods all took to the air and madly charged at Night Sorrow's group. The distance between them wasn't too far, and Jing Yun's speed was indeed slow. Soon the two sides met. Let's fight and retreat. At this moment, Ling Tian was a little afraid. The other side's lineup was obviously more powerful than his. Moreover, with Jing Yun dragging them down, it wouldn't be easy for them to escape. Fight and retreat? Ling Tian, you wish. Hearing Ling Tian's words, Mihaoyan sneered and said, Tyrannical Scorpion, go deal with those two low-level feather gods. Leave the rest to us. They had been in the endless bone realm for countless years, and were old acquaintances. Okay. Hearing this, Tyrannical Scorpion immediately accepted the order, and rushed towards Night Sorrow and Jing Yun. Ling Tian and the others wanted to say something, but there was no time for nonsense. They had 5 high-level feather gods to deal with 9 high-level feather gods. Although Jing Hong had selected experts to protect his sister, it wasn't easy for 5 to fight 9. After the chaotic battle began, they quickly fell into a disadvantage. Ling Tian was very strong, but he was evenly matched with Mihaoyan, and couldn't help the others. Ho Lai, Jiang Pingyang, Geng Chen, and Zhu Yunxia were surrounded by 2 cultivators of the same cultivation level, and their situation was even worse. Although they knew how important Jing Yun was, they couldn't free themselves. Especially Zhu Yunxia, under the pincer attack of 2 male cultivators, she quickly showed signs of defeat. Even half of her white robe was torn apart. If not for the 2 male cultivators deliberately trying to take advantage of her, she might have been killed in a few rounds. Jiang Pingyang was also in a difficult situation. Soon, half of his arm was chopped off by a male cultivator with a giant axe. Ho Lai and Geng Chen were quite strong. They didn't fall into a disadvantage, but they didn't have the energy to take care of the others. Looks like I'm going to die here today. Zhu Yunxia, whose clothes were being torn apart, felt sorrow in her heart when she saw the situation. She thought to herself that if she couldn't do it, she would have to kill herself. Otherwise, her innocence would be in danger. The world of cultivators was just this cruel. Defeat would be very miserable. Ho Lai and Geng Chen looked at each other, and used their gazes to discuss if they should escape together. The two of them had a good relationship. As for Ling Tian, the distance between him and Mihaoyan grew larger and larger. It was obvious that Ling Tian was retreating as he fought. However, while Ling Tian had retreated to a certain distance, the others had no chance to retreat at all. Seeing Ling Tian's performance, Ho Lai, Jiang Pingyang, Geng Chen, and Zhu Yunxia couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. As for Night Sorrow and Jing Yun, they were both lesser feather gods. Although Night Sorrow and Ho Lai's fight had ended in a draw, no one thought that he could defeat Ruthless Scorpion. They were all familiar with Tyrannical Scorpion, and they knew that Tyrannical Scorpion's strength was only second to Mihaoyan. Jing Yun, you are Jing Hong's sister. You are usually high and mighty. Who would have thought that you would fall into my hands today? The battle between the others soon reached its climax. However, Ruthless Scorpion didn't immediately make a move. She stared at Jing Yun for a while and threatened, I won't kill you because of your brother. However, you must serve me obediently. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death. Dream on, Jingyun said angrily. Disobedient? Seeing Jingyun's reaction, Ruthless Scorpion sneered. If you don't cooperate, I will kill your annoying lover first. Night Sorrow and Jingyun had been together all this time. Ruthless Scorpion thought that they were in that kind of relationship. After berating them, he directly attacked Night Sorrow. You finally made a move. Night Sorrow, who hadn't made a move all this time, had to protect Jingyun and couldn't be too far away from her. Thus, he didn't make the first move. Facing a greater feather god, he wasn't afraid. In fact, he was somewhat looking forward to it. He directly used the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear, and stabbed out 10 times. The spear is not bad, but in the hands of trash like you, it can't unleash its power at all. In the face of Night Sorrow's 10 spear strikes, Ruthless Scorpion didn't care at all. He turned his palm into a claw and directly grabbed over. With a bang, Ruthless Scorpion's huge right palm was directly pierced. What? Not expecting a lesser feather god's attack to be so powerful, Ruthless Scorpion immediately let out a cry of surprise. It's you. You're the lesser feather god who killed people in Master's territory. After thinking for a moment, Ruthless Scorpion remembered Night Sorrow. Wasn't this the cultivator they wanted? You know it's me, but it's too late. Jingyun, take care of yourself. I will finish him soon. To quickly kill a veteran greater feather god, Night Sorrow had to do his best. Now that the others were in a bad situation, he couldn't delay. He had to finish off Ruthless Scorpion as soon as possible, and then help the others break out of the situation. Otherwise, the situation could easily develop in the direction of collapse. After a while, Ling Tian had already retreated. Be careful, I can hold on for a while. The patrol team of lesser feather gods was still a certain distance away, and there were no skeletons nearby. Jingyun could still hold on for a while. Don't worry, I can kill him in a few breaths of time. While speaking, Night Sorrow stabbed several times in succession. The spear skills he knew were not just the few spears just now. Under the condition of activating the power of virtue, Night Sorrow's fighting strength was several times stronger than when he fought with Rocky Mountain. And Ruthless Scorpion, who was about the same strength as Rocky Mountain, was suppressed very miserably. So strong. It seems that I have to use my full strength. Ruthless Scorpion, who was suppressed, was also a decisive person. He immediately transformed into his original form to fight. He was a black scorpion that had turned into a demon, and was about the height of a small mountain. In contrast, Night Sorrow, who didn't deliberately enlarge his figure, looked like a mantis blocking a carriage. However, the situation was clearly not like a mantis trying to stop a carriage. Night Sorrow originally had the advantage in speed, and after Ruthless Scorpion transformed into his original form, he shuttled back and forth like a stream of light, which lessened the pressure on him. In less than 20 breaths of time, Ruthless Scorpion was covered in wounds. Is this how you use your full strength? Night Sorrow retorted ruthlessly. After entering the divine realm, he had grown stronger through battle. You're forcing my hand. Ruthless Scorpion knew that if this continued, he would very likely be killed, but he was too embarrassed to ask for help. After all, he was facing a lesser feather god. With a roar, Ruthless Scorpion activated a secret art, turning his entire body into a poisonous mist that attacked Night Sorrow. There's such a secret art? In the Endless Bone Realm, one couldn't use divine origin chi or soul power. Chapter 24:11. Everyone else's battle had reached its climax, and no one had the time to pay attention to Night Sorrow's situation. At the same time, Feng Ling's patrol team had arrived, and the situation was very unfavorable for Night Sorrow's side. Retreat. Everyone attack. On the other side, Ling Tian had retreated to a safe distance and shouted, "Retreat!" He ran first. Bastard! Is this how you lead your team? Seeing Ling Tian run away, everyone's morale suffered a great blow. Night Sorrow, this is Tyrannical Scorpion's unique talent. You need to find his weakness and kill him in one strike. Otherwise, you will never be able to walk out of the poisonous fog and will be poisoned to death. The only one who had some free time, Jingyun, reminded him loudly. She had heard of tyrannical scorpion's life-saving trump card. So that's how it is. Hearing Jingyun's reminder, Night Sorrow calmed down and began to search in the fog. At the same time, Jiang Pingyang, who was bitterly holding on, was cut in half by the axe and completely killed. And Zhu Yunxia, who was deliberately tortured by the other party, was left with only a doo-doo. This was a great humiliation for a God Realm cultivator. Let's run. There's no other way. Gongchen shouted to Ho Lai. Hold on for another 10 breaths. If no one comes to rescue us, we will retreat. As for Miss Jingyun, we can't take care of her. Ho Lai, who had already transformed into his true form, was very brave, but he was also somewhat unable to hold on. Die. Just as everyone was about to collapse, Yishan suddenly let out a roar. It turned out that he had found tyrannical scorpion's life core in the poisonous fog, and pierced it with his spear. Tyrannical scorpion's poisonous fog was originally a desperate trump card. If he didn't succeed, he would die. Once his life core was found, he would be killed instantly. Everyone who hadn't been paying attention to the battle was momentarily stunned. Originally, everyone thought that this battle was the least suspenseful. No one had expected that tyrannical scorpion would be killed by Night Sorrow, a low-level feather god. Good job! Ho Lai and Gongchen shouted at the same time as if they had been injected with cardiac stimulants. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, killed more than 10 lesser feather gods who surrounded him and Jingyun. Then he fought against the 2 cultivators who killed Jiang Pingyang. With his imposing aura, he used his spear Dao to kill the cultivator with the giant axe in an instant, avenging Jiang Pingyang. There's still hope. Night Sorrow's marksmanship is truly amazing. Zhu Yunxia, who was originally prepared to self-destruct, had tears in her eyes. She never thought that Night Sorrow would be the one to step forward when Ling Tian had escaped. At this moment, she was very glad that everyone had sacrificed some time to find the 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear for Night Sorrow. With the 1,000-kilogram demon-subduing spear in hand, Night Sorrow looked like an invincible god of death. In the blink of an eye, another upper-level feather god had been killed. There's hope. Let's fight. Ho Lai and Gongchen, who had been holding back their ultimate moves, felt hope rise in their hearts. They both used their ultimate moves. Ho Lai, who had transformed into a giant golden dragon, directly tore an opponent to shreds. Gongchen, who had transformed into a dragon, also heavily injured an opponent, making him lose the ability to fight. Now the situation had become 3 against 5. Although Zhu Yunxia was injured and temporarily lost the ability to fight, she stood together with Jingyun. However, Night Sorrow, Ho Lai, and Gongchen were not seriously injured. It would not be difficult for them to defeat the 5 of them. You have no hope. However, at this moment Mi Haoyan, who had chased Ling Tian away, returned and joined the battle once more. The situation had become 3 against 6 again. Moreover, a peak-level upper-level feather god had joined the battle. Ling Tian, you deserve to die. If it wasn't for Ling Tian's escape, their side would have won this battle because of Night Sorrow's explosive power. Now even if they could win, it would be very tragic. Night Sorrow, protect Jingyun and Yunxia and break out of the encirclement. The 2 of us will block them. Ho Lai shouted, his face full of hatred. He and Gongchen had already used their secret techniques, and would not be able to hold on for long. They would suffer a backlash and their strength would drop greatly. They were already prepared to sacrifice themselves. No need to run. The ones who should run are them. Night Sorrow, who was standing in front of the 2 women, did indeed have a chance to escape. However, he was not the kind of person who would abandon his teammates. As he roared, he unleashed his virtue energy to the maximum and charged towards the upper-level feather god in front of him, killing him in a single exchange. You deserve to die. Mi Haoyan, who had just arrived, charged straight at Yi Chong with a furious look on his face. In a situation where they had a clear advantage in numbers, only one of their opponents had died and 1 had escaped. On his side, 5 were dead and 1 was heavily injured. How could he accept this? Don't fight. Night Sorrow, hurry up and leave. Hurry up and leave. Don't worry about us. The 2 of us are about to die. Gongchen, who had been silent all this time, shouted. He knew that his secret technique was about to expire. As long as he and Ho Lai were weakened, the situation would turn into one where Night Sorrow would fight against 4 upper-level feather gods by himself. How could a lesser feather god possibly contend against such a situation? Ho Lai also roared, "Brother Night Sorrow, I Ho Lai have not lived in vain to have met a genius like you. Don't fight for us. Hurry up and run." "Don't worry. I haven't reached my limit yet." Although he had used up a lot of his virtue energy, Night Sorrow felt that his combat strength had not decreased. In the battle just now, his spear Dao had improved, just like when he had comprehended the life and death spear. "I have the primordial Dao body, the virtue Dao body, and the reincarnation energy. With such a deep understanding of taboos, why can't I comprehend taboo-grade spear techniques?" In an instant, Ho Lai and Gung Chun lost their combat strength and suffered heavy injuries. Afterwards, Night Sorrow was surrounded by Mi Haotian and the other 3 upper-level feather gods. The situation was like a battle between trapped beasts. Even so, Mi Haotian and the others did not dare to be careless. They did not even have the time to kill Ho Lai, Gung Chun, or Zhu Yunxia. "You're not Jing Hong's subordinate. There's no need for you to risk your life like this. How about this? I'll let you go, but you leave the 4 of them behind. The matter of you offending Lord Fengling will also be written off." At this moment, Night Sorrow's aura was at its peak. Mi Haotian deliberately did not attack immediately. Instead, he persuaded him to leave. "No need to say anything more. I don't have the habit of abandoning my companions. Come, let's have a showdown." The virtue energy around Night Sorrow's body dissipated, but his blood energy surged and flowed on the surface of his body, forming a smoke signal that soared into the sky. "It's actually a deity's essence smoke. Quickly, attack. We can't let his aura continue to rise." Seeing that something was wrong, Mi Haotian was in no mood to persuade him. He ordered the other 3 upper-level feather gods to attack. "Come, let's fight." Chapter 24:12. Even at this moment, Brother Night Sorrow still has such an aura. He's like a god descending to the mortal world. "I, Ho Lai, am convinced." Ho Lai, who had already accepted his fate, had tears in his eyes. This was caused by his excitement, and not because he was being unreasonable. Yi Shan's performance with his black spear was simply too ferocious. He was definitely able to turn the tide and support the collapse of a great building. Not only was Ho Lai excited, Gung Chun, Jing Yun, and Zhu Yunxia were also deeply affected. Especially Zhu Yunxia. She felt that she had the strength to fight again. Just at this moment, another group of low-level feather gods attacked, and were killed by her. While Zhu Yunxia was fighting with the low-level feather gods, Night Sorrow, who had already entered a berserk state, used the forbidden spear technique he had comprehended to kill another person. Furthermore, he seemed to be getting fiercer as he fought. Is this the forbidden spear technique? Mi Haotian, who had never seen such a spear technique in the Endless Bone Realm before, suddenly felt the urge to retreat. He and the other 2 high-level feather gods hadn't used their secret techniques yet, but he felt that it wasn't worth it to fight to the death in such a situation. After all, he only wanted to capture Jing Yun and gain some merits. There was no need to fight to the death. Retreat. After Night Sorrow killed another high-level feather god, Mi Haotian quickly fled like a frightened horse. The last remaining high-level feather god also wanted to flee, but Night Sorrow's 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear pierced through his body. At the end of the battle, Night Sorrow had actually killed several people, and the strongest on both sides had fled. It was quite a dramatic scene. "Brother Night Sorrow, I won't say anything. I Ho Lai owe you my life. From now on, regardless of wind or rain, I will follow you." After killing the heavily injured high-level feather god, Ho Lai immediately stood up and bowed towards Night Sorrow. The others were also extremely grateful towards Night Sorrow, saying many words of thanks. If it wasn't for him today, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Gung Chun, who didn't like to talk much, started cursing Ling Tian, who had fled midway. "Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. We must leave this place immediately. To tell you the truth, I'm already at my limit. I'm like an arrow at the end of its flight. If that person hadn't fled, I definitely wouldn't have been his match." After saying Night Sorrow, He fell to the ground. Night Sorrow, are you exhausted from fighting? Should we enter the Great Array or go back the way we came? Jingyun asked as she helped Night Sorrow up. At this point, the four of them had already treated Night Sorrow as their backbone. In my opinion, we might still have a chance if we enter the formation. If they didn't enter the array, it was very easy for them to encounter other cultivators. Now only Yin Xia had the power to fight. If we run into a team of high-tier feather gods, we'll definitely be wiped out, Night Sorrow said with a frown. Jing Yun and Zhu Yunxia were beautiful female cultivators. If other superior feather gods saw them in the wild, there would definitely be a big battle. This was the legendary femme fatale. Alright. Then let's hurry into the Great Array. Now that the high-tier feather gods had been killed, even if low-tier feather gods tried to stop them, they wouldn't be a threat. Moreover, Jing Yun couldn't withstand the soul-devouring evil wind outside. Zhu Yunxia supported Ho Lion Gengqin, one in each hand. Her clothes were a bit disheveled, which made things easier for the two of them. However, they had just experienced a life-and-death battle, so Zhu Yunxia didn't mind. She thought of it as a reward for the two of them. Jing Yun carried Night Sorrow on her back and followed Zhu Yunxia through the array door. After passing through the array door, they entered a new world. They were standing on a huge stone platform. Standing on the stone platform, they looked down at a slanted stone staircase. The staircase extended for tens of thousands of kilometers. It was extremely majestic. At the bottom of the staircase, there was brown cracked ground and flowing dark red lava. From time to time, skeletons would emerge from the ground. Some of the skeletons would attack each other, but most of them were wandering around in a daze. In the distance, there were a few towering mountains of different shapes. At a glance, they couldn't see the altar mentioned by the Python King. What should we do now? Jing Yun, who was carrying Night Sorrow on her back, asked. It was clear that in their current state, walking forward was not a good choice. It was very likely that they would attract the attacks of tens of thousands of skeletons. Although most of these skeletons were low-tier and mid-tier feather gods, there were too many of them. If they didn't move from the entrance, it would be very dangerous for other cultivators to enter. Let's recover here and continue when we're in a better state. Jing Yun, put me down. Night Sorrow felt a bit embarrassed being carried by a beautiful female cultivator. Okay. Hearing this, Jing Yun blushed slightly. Then, she changed the topic and said, I wonder where Ling Tian went. Logically speaking, he should have also entered this array door. That's right. I wonder where that bastard ran off to. Ho Lai cursed in his heart. Gengqin couldn't help but curse. If I see that bastard Ling Tian in the future, I'll definitely kill him. I'll tell Big Brother about Ling Tian right now. Now that Night Sorrow knew that she was Jing Hong's sister, Jing Yun didn't hide it anymore. What are you going to tell him? However, just as Jing Yun took out the twin shell and was about to contact Jing Hong, a cold and slightly smug voice suddenly sounded. Ling Tian walked out from behind a pile of rocks and rushed onto the stone platform. He snatched the twin shell from Jing Yun's hands and threw it to the ground. Ling Tian, you deserter! What are you doing? Jing Yun immediately shouted angrily. Ling Tian. Ho Lai and Gengqin glared at each other. Hearing this, Ling Tian smiled. Jing Yun, to tell you the truth, I've been interested in you for a long time. Now is the best time to get you. Ha ha ha. Despicable and shameless. Aren't you afraid that Big Brother will hunt you down? Seeing Ling Tian walk towards her step by step, Jing Yun's expression changed greatly. She had basically lost the ability to fight. With just her and Zhu Yunxia, they definitely weren't a match for Ling Tian. Ha ha ha. After playing with you and Zhu Yunxia, I'll kill you all. No one will know that I did it. Ling Tian's face was filled with madness. However, before I play with you and Zhu Yunxia, I have to deal with these three first. I don't want others to see my women's bodies. Bastard. Who's your woman? Seeing that Ling Tian was about to make a move on Night Sorrow and the others, Zhu Yunxia's expression became serious and she rushed up. You overestimate yourself. Zhu Yunxia, even if you were at your peak, you wouldn't be a match for me. Let alone now. Ling Tian, who was laughing towards the sky, sent Zhu Yunxia flying with a slap. Ling Tian, you treacherous bastard. You'll die a horrible death. Jing Yin, who was helping Zhu Yunxiao up, angrily cursed. In her heart, she was already prepared to die. Even if she died, she wouldn't let a despicable person like Ling Tian off so easily. Chapter 24:13. Even if I die, I won't let you have your way. Red Cloud, we'll protect our innocence with our lives. Jing Yin, who couldn't see any hope, glared at Ling Tian. It's not hard to die, but even if you die, I'll have a good time with you to get rid of the demons in my heart. Ling Tian laughed wantonly as he stared at Jing Yin. If you weren't Jing Hong's sister, I wouldn't feel so excited. Ling Tian, you bitch. If you have the guts, wait for me to recover and fight. What's the point of bullying a woman? The irascible Ho Lai was so angry that his teeth itched, but there was nothing he could do. After suffering the backlash, he couldn't even move. You want a big fight? Sure, I'll satisfy you. With the joy of being in control, Ling Tian sneered. Which one of you three is prepared to fight first? Or all of you can fight together? He was naturally referring to Night Sorrow, Ho Lai, and Gengchen. You're dead. Night Sorrow, who hadn't spoken until now, slowly stood up. In his eyes, a shameless person like Ling Tian didn't need to live. Haha, with just you. A piece of trash that needed a woman to carry you here. Ling Tian felt that Night Sorrow was bluffing. Whether I'm trash or not, you'll know once you try. Night Sorrow was expressionless, but he held the 1,000 catty demon subduing spear in his hands. Night Sorrow, your talent is shocking and your future is limitless. If you have the ability, then run. Don't worry about us. Just help us take revenge in the future. Seeing Night Sorrow kill 8 high-level feather gods, Jing Yun knew that he had reached his limit. It's fine, I can still fight. Night Sorrow, who was standing on the platform, felt like he was about to fall. He couldn't even stand steadily. The battle just now was too fierce, and there were countless wounds on his body, making him look extremely wretched. He had used up too much energy and was close to his limit. Brother Night Sorrow, hurry up and run. I, Ho Lai, respect you as a man. However, Ling Tian's strength is close to that of a half-step high god. In your current state, you're no match for him. Ho Lai's eyes were red. It's a pity that we haven't known each other for long. We can't fight together. Yes. Yi Shang, hurry up and run. We'll help you stall Ling Tian. Gengchen panted as he prepared to ignite his blood essence and self-destruct. Everyone was able to discern that Night Sorrow's current state was like a fallen leaf drifting in the wind, and he was utterly unfit to continue fighting. Jing Yin and Zhu Yunxia, who had gathered together, saw that Night Sorrow was in such a bad state and still refused to leave. They were so anxious that they started crying. They did not expect that Night Sorrow was not only talented, but also had a good character. Under such circumstances, he would still protect everyone. Don't worry, Night Sorrow said softly. He didn't say too much. You guys talk too much. Night Sorrow, since you want to be a hero, I will fulfill your wish. Die. Everyone treated Night Sorrow as a hero, and Ling Tian was extremely unhappy. Burning with jealousy, he furiously attacked Night Sorrow. No. Ling Tian's aura was extremely frightening, causing Jing Yun to shout out worriedly. Just in time. Who lives and who dies will be decided in an instant. Facing Ling Tian's attack, Night Sorrow did not move, because he did not have the extra strength to do so. When Ling Tian was in front of him, he roared and cut off his left arm, using the limitless body tempering art to absorb it. Then he used the 1,000 catty demon subduing spear to stab out with his strongest attack. This attack was the forbidden spear art that he had just comprehended. Although it was not flashy, it had the aura of destruction. The spear tip emitting a faint black light was so fast that it was impossible to dodge. What's going on? Why can't I dodge it? Facing this spear, Ling Tian realized that something was wrong and had no chance to dodge. Pooh. The spear hit, and Ling Tian's body directly turned into a bloody mist. Night Sorrow actually took Ling Tian's life with a single spear. Moreover, it was a direct blow. This caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. They did not understand what Night Sorrow's spear was all about. This is the forbidden spear. Night Sorrow, who had succeeded in killing Ling Tian with a single spear, only said these 5 words before sitting on the ground to recover. There were no recovery pills in the endless bone realm, and Night Sorrow and the others did not have any rare treasures, so they could only recover naturally. He actually killed Ling Tian with a single move. Is this true? I'm afraid that only someone as strong as Big Brother can do this. Ling Tian's death had solved a huge problem. Jing Yun should have been very happy, but she was already immersed in deep shock. Night Sorrow, who was a lower feather god in the body refinement realm, had actually killed Ling Tian, who was a higher feather god, with a single spear strike. This was the first time in the endless bone realm. Moreover, Night Sorrow seemed to have been constantly increasing his strength during the battle. Originally, he would not have been able to do all this. In fact, it was not just her. Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai and Geng Chen were also dumbfounded. They even forgot the excitement of escaping death. After a while, Geng Chen said, "Brother Night Sorrow, can I ask you for a favor?" "What is it?" "Speak." Although Night Sorrow was exhausted, he still had the strength to speak. "If possible, I want to ask you to take me out of the endless bone realm. There are important people waiting for me outside." Geng Chen's eyes were filled with anticipation. "If I have the ability to help you, I will definitely do it." Night Sorrow nodded. Although he had promised Geng Chen, Night Sorrow was not confident in this matter. This was because if he wanted to help them leave the endless bone realm, he would first have to have the sky-piercing bone pagoda recognize him as its master. After that, the 5 of them rested on the platform for 7 days. When Night Sorrow had recovered, he condensed his power of virtue to protect them. They passed through a group of lower feather god skeletons, and arrived at a mountain slope in front of them, where they found a cave. They were all in very bad condition. After entering the cave, they began a long period of recovery. By the time the 5 of them had mostly recovered, 2 years had already passed. At this time, there were countless small groups searching for opportunities in the formation. However, this formation was large enough that even if tens of thousands of cultivators entered to search for opportunities, the chances of them encountering each other were not very high. "We've mostly recovered. It's time to go out and search for opportunities. What do you think?" Night Sorrow's injuries were completely healed, but his clothes were a bit tattered. He did not want his opportunity to be taken away, so he was a bit anxious. Everyone has mostly recovered, but Jing Yun is a bit weak. Why don't we send her out and then come back in? Brother Night Sorrow, what do you think? Geng Chen suggested. For this trip, Jing Yun was indeed a burden. The deeper we go into this formation, the more dangerous it will be. Jing Yun, what do you think? Night Sorrow looked at Jing Yun. Although I'm still looking forward to the opportunity, I don't want to be a burden to you. I'll go out. Jing Yun said with some reluctance. However, she was too weak and did not have any special abilities, so she could only withdraw. The battle 2 years ago had already made her understand the cruelty of this place. Wait for me here. I have the power of virtue protecting me. The weaker skeletons won't attack me at all. Since they had decided to send Jing Yun out of the formation, Night Sorrow spoke his mind. Everyone knew that this was the best choice. After all, they had fewer people and less of a target, so no one objected. The cave they were hiding in was not far from the entrance of the formation. With Night Sorrow's power of virtue protecting him, they quickly arrived at the bottom of the stairs of the platform. Chapter 24:14. If it weren't for Night Sorrow's power of virtue protecting him, the weaker skeletons wouldn't have dared to approach. Otherwise, they would have been in a miserable state. Because of the location of the formation gate, more than 10 high-level feather gods had been teleported in, and one of them was Night Sorrow's acquaintance. It was Feng Jiu, Feng Ling's subordinate. Night Sorrow had killed Leng Qianxiu in front of him, which had caused the formation to be exposed. What should we do? They were very close and very dangerous. Jing Yun used her eyes to communicate with Night Sorrow. She was clearly panicking. After all, she was too weak. Any one of the dozen or so upper-level feather gods could easily kill her. Don't panic. Let's wait and see. Night Sorrow replied with his lips. He was relatively calm, but he was still a little worried. Facing more than 10 high-level feather gods alone in such a special environment, Night Sorrow was confident that he could escape. But with Jing Yun, who was a low-level feather god, it wasn't so easy to deal with. He could only choose to bide his time. Boss, why did you gather everyone in such a hurry? Did you find the location of the body-tempering treasured book? Feng Jiu, who was standing on the platform, looked around and didn't find any cultivators around, so she asked in a low voice. The person being asked was a handsome male cultivator. He was Feng Yi, Feng Ling's #1 expert. Hearing Feng Jiu's question, Feng Yi looked around and explained, I didn't find the body-tempering treasured book. The array was simply too vast. But a few days ago, someone found Dao Comprehension wine in an area. What? Dao Comprehension wine? Isn't that the companion of the Genesis essence of heaven and earth? So there might be Genesis essence of heaven and earth in that area? Feng Jiu was overjoyed when she heard Feng Yi's words. There should be. But there's a fire attribute bone dragon nearby that is infinitely close to the level of a supreme god. This bone dragon is too strong, probably on the same level as the 4 great experts. So we have to find more people to snatch the opportunity together, Feng Yi explained to the cultivators present. Everyone killing that bone dragon together? I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult, a green-faced cultivator said. Feng Yi sneered. It's impossible to kill that bone dragon without the 4 great experts. Because none of us will be able to break through its defenses. More people will just attract more firepower and create opportunities for others. To think that there might be Genesis essence. Night Sorrow was rather excited when he heard their conversation. After all, he had drunk Dao Comprehension wine from Mo Yuqian, and had heard about Genesis essence. This was a good thing. Although it would be dangerous, it was worth a try. Furthermore, no one was a match for that bone dragon. Whoever could seize the opportunity would depend on luck. Who's there? But right at this moment, Mi Haotian suddenly bellowed at Shiryu, where Night Sorrow was seated. How was it discovered? Night Sorrow and Jingyan looked at each other, and realized that neither of them had exposed their location nor made a sound. In the endless bone realm, one couldn't use their divine soul power. They were so far away, so they should be safe. Do you two think that I won't notice you just because you're standing there? Mi Haotian sneered. At the same time, he shot a glance at the others. After all, Feng Yi had just revealed the matter of the Genesis essence, and it was best to keep it a secret. Not good. We've been discovered. Smell, it's the smell. The enemy camp is especially good at distinguishing smells. Realizing that they had indeed been discovered, Night Sorrow didn't dare to hesitate any longer. He pulled Jingyun's hand and charged towards the lava. The direction he chose was the opposite of the cave where Ho Lai and the others were hiding. He was afraid that he would implicate them. It's him. He's the one who killed 8 of our high feather gods. Let's go, we can't let him go. Seeing Night Sorrow clearly, Mi Haotian roared and chased after him, his speed surpassing the others. A low feather god killed 8 of our high feather gods? Feng Yi was clearly taken aback by Mi Haotian's words, but he soon smiled and said, Mi Haotian, you're exaggerating. Exaggerating? I'm definitely not exaggerating. This person can't be left alive. He must be killed immediately. Night Sorrow's bravery had left a deep impression on Mi Haotian. Making a mountain out of a molehill. Feng Yi, Feng Jiu, and the others didn't take Mi Haotian's words to heart at all. They followed the others and chased after them. Using the advantage of virtue, Night Sorrow and Jing Yun shuttled through the skeletons. However, they were extremely nervous. If they were caught by more than 10 high feather gods, they definitely wouldn't be able to deal with them. Actually, if he didn't bring Jing Yun along, Night Sorrow would have already found a way to shake them off. But unfortunately, Jing Yun's speed was too slow. Oh whoa. Mi Haotian and the others were getting closer and closer. Before long, they were only 1,000 miles away. At this moment, Night Sorrow heard a heaven-shaking dragon roar coming from a valley ahead. Could it be the fire attribute bone dragon that they were talking about? The dragon roar was extremely shocking, making one's soul tremble. With a thought, Night Sorrow felt that rather than being caught by Mi Haotian and the others, he might as well charge into the valley and try his luck. Sprinting into the valley, Night Sorrow discovered that the valley was also filled with lava. However, the terrain was very complicated with many small mountains and crevices. At this moment, A huge creature was flying in the air, spitting out flames. Obviously, it was angered by some cultivators. On the ground, there were dozens of cultivators hiding here and there. However, no matter where they hid, they would be found by the skeletons on the ground. Soon, they became the target of attack again. What a powerful aura! While praising the fire attribute Bone Dragon, Night Sorrow raised a huge rock and threw it at it. What are you doing? Seeing Night Sorrow's actions, Jingyun was puzzled. She didn't understand why he would take the initiative to provoke this powerful bone dragon. Naturally, I want to use this bone dragon to make a fuss, to stop the group behind us. Otherwise, how can we shake them off with just us? Night Sorrow explained. This was like driving a tiger to devour a wolf. Whoosh! Without waiting for the two to speak, the bone dragon that was chasing after the others directly spat out a mouthful of flames at Night Sorrow and Jingyun's location. The flames that covered the sky and earth were very hot. It easily melted a small mountain. Moreover, it didn't burn Night Sorrow and Jingyun. It completely melted their robes, making them directly naked. Even Night Sorrow's robe of nothingness was melted. If it wasn't for Jingyun having a special protective divine artifact, she would have been roasted to death. Ah! Don't look. Realizing that something was wrong, Jingyun immediately screamed. Let's go. Night Sorrow didn't care about this. He pulled Jingyun's hand and dragged her into a crevice. As soon as they disappeared, the bone dragon that was gliding in the sky locked onto Mihaoyan and the others. It continuously spat out red flames. We've temporarily avoided the danger, but we're not safe. We're all cultivators, don't worry too much about certain things. Although Jingyun's strength wasn't good, her looks were definitely not bad. She was naked and was quite tempting. Night Sorrow, who didn't expect this to happen, was indeed a little embarrassed. He originally wanted to ask Jingyun how she avoided this disaster, but he was too embarrassed to ask. Chapter 24:15. After a long period of silence, Night Sorrow finally spoke. I just discovered that the bone dragon relies on a group of little skeletons to find its target. We have the power of virtue protecting us, so those skeletons won't find us. We are safe for the time being. But what do we do next? Jingyun's face was already red from embarrassment as she used her hands to cover her private parts. After cultivating for so many years, this was the first time she had met a male cultivator so openly. This was something unimaginable outside of the Endless Bone region. There are no other cultivators in the crevice we are in. We can follow the crevice to find something that can cover us. Night Sorrow awkwardly said as he took the lead. This way, he would not be able to see Jingyun's body. However, because of this, Jingyun, who was following behind, didn't know where to look. There seems to be a life ahead. The crevice was much safer on the surface. After walking a few thousand miles along the wall, Night Sorrow suddenly came to a halt. He saw some green moss on the stone wall not far in front of him. There were traces of dampness on the stone wall where the moss was. There are indeed traces of water. Jingyun nodded. There was lava and skeletons above, but there are traces of water here. We might be able to find some Dao comprehension wine. Let's hurry over. All right. The more fortunate a place is, the more dangerous it is. We must be careful. Yi Shang, who had given some instructions, once again led the way. After walking for a while, his face lit up and he said, the water on the stone wall ahead is very likely Dao comprehension wine. I drank this wine before and remember its smell. The water on the wall gave off a fragrant wine smell. Night Sorrow immediately became excited. But how are we going to collect it? Jingyun's brows were tightly knitted together. They had walked for a long time in the crevice. Besides the rocks, there was only the moss in front of them. Besides that, the only thing in their hands was the 1,000 devil subduing spear that Night Sorrow had borrowed from Zhu Yunxia. There's no rush to collect it. Let's observe first. Let's see if we can find any Genesis essence. The Dao comprehension wine could raise a cultivator's comprehension ability, and was indeed very precious, but it was only a companion of the Genesis essence. Now that he had found it, Night Sorrow would naturally prioritize searching for Genesis essence to see if he could find some. This valley had a radius of about 2 million miles, which wasn't too big for cultivators. If they didn't hurry up and search, someone would find this place soon. There seems to only be some moss and some Tao-comprehending wine here, Jingyun said in a slightly regretful tone as she approached the stone wall. Night Sorrow, on the other hand, looked up at the sky. The bone dragon had just flown over, blocking some of the light. When the light returned to normal, he began to observe if there was any water dripping down from the sky. Or rather, a drop of enlightenment wine. If it's not dripping from the sky, then there's only one possibility. The wine is seeping out from the stone walls. After observing for a while, Night Sorrow grabbed the 1,000-ton devil-subduing spear, which was still hot to the touch, and thrust it towards the moss. Although the stone walls were as hard as steel, how could they possibly block the 1,000-ton devil-subduing spear? Night Sorrow soon dug a hole the height of a person in the wall, and continued forward with Jingyun. While digging, Night Sorrow discovered that the rocks he cut were becoming more and more moist, while the smell of alcohol was also growing stronger. We might very well find something big. As Night Sorrow continued to dig in the darkness, the smell of alcohol made him increasingly clear-headed, his thoughts becoming clearer and clearer. He felt very comfortable, as if his comprehension ability had also increased. Following behind him, Jingyun also felt very comfortable as she gratefully said, Night Sorrow, I really have to thank you this time. If not for you, I wouldn't have been able to find such a blessing. These things are still nothing, they can't even be considered as blessings. In response, Night Sorrow shook his head and continued to dig. He felt that only the Genesis essence was truly good stuff. After digging for nearly 10,000 miles, the duo's vision suddenly opened up. They had entered a lush green world. There was blue sky and light, as well as numerous towering ancient trees. Between the ancient trees was some green grass, making it look similar to a mountain forest. However, these ancient trees were all over 10,000 meters tall, making them very tall and straight. Not far in front of them was an ancient tree that reached straight into the clouds, making it impossible to see its crown. If I'm not wrong, the tallest tree in front of us should be the World Tree. Night Sorrow had come into contact with the World Tree before. He frowned and said, Let's stay a little further away from that World Tree. Such ancient trees are usually guarded by divine beasts. Okay, I'll use the leaves to make 2 sets of clothes first. Jingyun, who was following behind Night Sorrow, took some green leaves from a nearby tree, and made 2 sets of clothes that could temporarily cover their bodies. After putting on the clothes, the 2 of them looked very spirited, and the awkward atmosphere eased a lot. Jingyun smiled and said, Wearing these leaves really makes us feel like we've blended into this world. I feel the same way. I feel much more comfortable wearing these leaves. Let's go find the source of the enlightenment wine. Night Sorrow said, but just as he was about to leave, he pushed Jingyun down into the grass and mouthed, Someone's coming. Looks like we're not the only ones who found this place. Okay. Jingyun blushed slightly as Night Sorrow pressed her down. However, her body-tempering strength was probably the weakest in the entire formation. Hearing that someone was coming, she didn't dare to move. She could only cooperate with Night Sorrow and lie on the ground, using the grass to hide her body. Ahead to the left, there are 5 people 10,000 miles away. They're hiding behind a tree. Directly ahead, 20,000 miles away, there are 7 cultivators. They're squatting behind a huge rock, also choosing not to make a move. There are people everywhere. I'm afraid there are no less than 100 cultivators who found this place. We're the weakest. Night Sorrow, who was lying on the ground without making a sound, was relatively far from the World Tree. He focused on listening to everything around him. The towering World Tree was very lush, and everyone's focus was on it. However, they chose not to make a move for the time being. After 3 days, more and more cultivators found this place. Finally, someone couldn't wait any longer, and crept toward the World Tree. Everyone was watching, so no one made a move to stop the group of 4. However, everyone was prepared to make a move. When the 4 of them were still 1,000 miles away from the World Tree, a fierce beast that looked like a tiger but had fleshy wings suddenly rushed out from the World Tree. This fierce beast had 2 light golden dragon horns on its forehead, and its mouth was like an eagle's beak. It looked very ferocious. When it charged toward the 4 cultivators, its body glowed red. It's so fast, this is at least half a step into the immortal realm. It's not inferior to the bone dragon outside. The fierce beast was very fast. The 4 immortal realm cultivators were torn to shreds in the blink of an eye. Some cultivators whispered, but this aroused its ferocity. It turned into a streak of light and attacked again. Seeing this fierce beast continue to attack, even Night Sorrow became nervous. There were many cultivators present, but they couldn't work together to deal with this fierce beast. They were likely to be defeated one by one. Chapter 24:16. Roar. The speed and attack power of the ferocious beast was astonishing. It was even more terrifying than the fire tribute bone dragon outside. Under its crazy attack, 2 more cultivators were killed in a moment. Their bodies were torn apart and they ended up in a miserable state. The choking smell of blood spread out. The ancient forest, which was originally green and did not seem to be dangerous, suddenly became jittery. No cultivator was not nervous. They were afraid that they would be chosen as the next target. This ferocious beast is too strong. It should be difficult to fight against it. The ferocious beast was very cruel. Many hidden cultivators had already begun to feel their scalps tingle. Night Sorrow and Jingyan also looked at each other. They even concealed their auras and did not dare to make any sound. The small world suddenly became extremely quiet. Only the sound of the ferocious beast chewing could be heard. A powerful cultivator at the upper level of the Feather God realm was eaten just like that. The deterrence was too great. Oh no! Run! Run! A moment later, a small group of 5 cultivators suddenly rushed out from behind an ancient tree and began to flee in different directions. It turned out that the ferocious beast went berserk again after eating the flesh and blood of a few cultivators. Although the small group of 5 fled in different directions, they were all torn apart by the ferocious beast in less than 10 breaths. None of them escaped. Its speed was too fast, and its attacks were so sharp that no one could stop it. This is not a treasure ground. It's simply a hunting ground for ferocious beasts. One of the 5 people died less than 100 miles away from Night Sorrow. He felt his scalp explode. He lowered his head nervously and did not look at the ferocious beast. He was afraid that the ferocious beast would discover them with its vigilance. Night Sorrow had not been so nervous for many years. However, if the ferocious beast attacked, he would definitely fight to the death and protect Jingyan. Although he was not as strong as the ferocious beast, he could not completely resist like the other cultivators. Crunch, crunch. The ferocious beast soon began to chew on the cultivators closest to Night Sorrow. Hearing the hair-raising sound, Night Sorrow and Jingyan almost burrowed into the soil. In addition to the leaves on their bodies, they were also covered in thick mud. The most terrifying thing would happen. After the ferocious beast finished chewing, it roared into the sky and suddenly charged towards Yishang and Jingyan. Not good. This beast. Oh no. Night Sorrow and Jingyan's hearts were in their throats at the same time, especially Jingyan. If Night Sorrow still had a chance to escape, then she definitely had no chance at all. Don't move. I'll distract it. Once it's taken away by me, you can return the way you came. At this critical moment, Night Sorrow raised his 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear and stood up to strike. It was impossible for him to surrender without putting up a fight. What? So the target wasn't me. The speed of the ferocious beasts was simply too fast. By the time Night Sorrow stabbed out with his spear, the ferocious beasts had already passed through their position and were heading towards the cultivators further away. Night Sorrow stood up and looked around. He suddenly felt a little awkward. Seeing that Night Sorrow wasn't attacked but stood up, some people almost laughed out loud. No, we can't just sit here and wait for death. Jingyan, follow me. Night Sorrow, whose body had already been exposed, had already confirmed one thing in the process just now. The ferocious beasts probably relied on smell or aura to find cultivators. As long as the aura was different from the one in the forest, no matter how they hid, they would be discovered. He and Jingyan were wearing leaves and had the aura of soil all over their bodies. Therefore, they weren't discovered and thus escaped the disaster. Originally, they could have hidden for a while longer, but now that Night Sorrow had stood up, they would definitely be exposed. It was impossible to continue hiding. Rushing directly towards the Tree of World would obviously attract the ferocious beast's attacks. In a moment of desperation, Night Sorrow used his 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear to dig in the ground. The ferocious beasts were indeed fast in the ancient forest. There was no way to escape. Night Sorrow felt that the only chance was to dig a hole to hide. Faster, faster, faster. It's coming. Night Sorrow had already tried his best to dig down, but before he could dig down 1,000 meters, the ferocious beasts pounced over, scaring Jingyun so much that she screamed. Its huge head appeared at the entrance of the bright cave. Oh! The ferocious beast that had discovered its target was extremely manic. It kept digging with its claws. Although its body wasn't big, it was digging down very quickly. It brought a lot of pressure to Night Sorrow and Jingyun. Especially Jingyun. She could see the ferocious beast's huge head when she turned her head and smelled the thick scent of blood. I want to be fast too, but I've reached my limit. Night Sorrow was also anxious. With the ferocious beast blocking their way underground, they had no space to hide. We can't. It's catching up. Seeing that the ferocious beast was getting closer and closer, Jingyun shouted anxiously. Hide behind me. Night Sorrow, who knew that it wasn't a good idea to dig randomly, shielded Jingyun behind him. He held his spear and waited for the ferocious beast. When the distance was shortened to 100 meters, Night Sorrow made up his mind and used his 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear to stab with all his might. This spear pierced through time and space like a flash of lightning. In an instant, it went straight for the ferocious beast's throat. Although you're fast and have high attack power, you can't be so fearless against my 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear. In the battle 2 years ago, Night Sorrow had used this 1,000-ton demon-subduing Ling Tian, who was close to becoming a half-deity. Although this ferocious beast looked very powerful, it wasn't at the level of a great deity. In such a narrow area underground, it couldn't take advantage of its speed and could only take this attack head-on. Boom! The ferocious beast didn't dodge. Instead, it used its huge claws to attack the 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear. When the two collided, the entire ground caved in. The impact of their collision was so great that it caused the ground to sink for thousands of miles. Roar! The ferocious beast that was buried underground quickly rose to the sky and drilled out of the ground. There were obvious bloodstains on its claws. Obviously, it was injured by Night Sorrow's spear. Although it was fast and had high attack power, its defense was much weaker than the fire attribute Bone Dragon. At this time, many cultivators wanted to take the opportunity to escape the forest. The ferocious beast, enraged by its injuries, began to slaughter even more fiercely. That ferocious beast doesn't seem to have any intelligence. It chases after whoever it sees. This is our chance. Night Sorrow, who thought that the ferocious beast wouldn't be able to recover after injuring it, was relieved to see it wreaking havoc on the ground again. Let's get out of here quickly. If it wasn't for Night Sorrow's attack, the two of them would have been torn apart by the ferocious beast. Night Sorrow's 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear was already a threat to a half-deity. It was no wonder that it could kill Ling Tian in one move. Jingyun looked at Yi Shang with surprise and confusion. She didn't know how a low-level feather god like him had managed to do this. Hey, listen, I think I hear water. Night Sorrow, who had exchanged a blow with the ferocious beast, felt his arm go numb. However, he continued to dig with the 1,000-ton demon-subduing spear. After digging for about 10,000 meters, he suddenly heard the sound of water and smelled the scent of Dao Comprehension wine. Night Sorrow, who originally wanted to find a way out of here, suddenly had a different idea. He quickly dug in the direction of the sound of water. The closer he got, the stronger the scent of Dao Comprehension wine. Chapter 24:17. What a strong smell of wine. I think I'm a bit drunk. Arriving in front of the moist stone wall, Jingyun's cheeks and neck flushed red. She was intoxicated by the wine. She felt that the aura of the Dao Comprehension wine was too strong. Are you alright? This caused Yi Shan to be slightly surprised because at the beginning, he felt that the smell of Dao Comprehension wine was getting stronger and stronger, but now he felt that this smell had faded quite a bit. I'm fine. I think I've encountered a fortuitous opportunity. Night Sorrow, thank you for bringing me here. Jingyun sat cross-legged on the ground as she spoke. Soon, a dense halo appeared around her, giving her a sense of holiness. The Tao comprehending Wine Chi and the surroundings all gathered towards her. Looks like I'll have to stand guard for you. Night Sorrow didn't disturb Jingyun, and stood nearby to guard her. Not long after, 3 high feather gods appeared. Seeing Jingyun's sacred and inviolable appearance, they revealed greedy eyes. However, the 3 of them quickly fled under Night Sorrow's powerful attack. A spear that could even injure a half-step high god was not something they could take head-on. Just like that, 2 months passed in a flash. Night Sorrow drove away 3 waves of cultivators. Jingyun was still cultivating, but the sounds on the ground were even more intense. Clearly, more cultivators had arrived and a great battle had broken out. It was unknown whether it was a battle between cultivators and beasts, or a battle between cultivators. This can't go on. Another 7 days passed. Jingyun was still cultivating, but the frequency of cultivators appearing in the vicinity was increasing. This gave Night Sorrow considerable pressure. One day, a low roar came from the ground. It sounded like a beast. It must have been attacked as it let out a painful roar. The beast's roar was frightening. Jingyun, who was in the middle of cultivation, groaned and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. Night Sorrow wanted to ask her how she was, but he didn't say anything for fear of disturbing her. At this time, the halo around Jingyun suddenly brightened and turned into a red flame. The leaves and soil around her were immediately incinerated. Jingyun's entire body became naked in the fire. This, Night Sorrow, who had taken a few extra glances because he was worried about her, couldn't help but turn his face away, silently cursing himself for looking at indecent things. Night Sorrow, thank you. You can turn around now, and we can continue forward. Suddenly Jingyun spoke. All right. Let's continue searching for opportunities. Night Sorrow, who had turned around, discovered that Jingyun's entire body was bathed in flames. She was no longer exposed. This was somewhat special. Are you curious? As they continued to walk along the stone wall, Jingyun smiled and said, although I'm in human form, I have the bloodline of the true phoenix. The Tao comprehension wine just now made my bloodline evolve. Even though I'm still a lesser feather god body refiner, the flames around my body have greatly improved my body refinement abilities. His current body refining power shouldn't be inferior to that of ordinary mid-level feather god body refiners. Then I really have to congratulate you. Night Sorrow congratulated her, but because of Jingyun's words, he thought of someone, Wu Lingfei, who possessed the bloodline of the Golden Phoenix. Aunt Fei, I wonder how you're doing now. Become stronger. He needed to continue becoming stronger quickly. Thinking of this, Night Sorrow felt that he didn't have a single second to waste. Night Sorrow, is there something on your mind? Jingyun asked when she saw Night Sorrow's heavy expression. I thought of a relative. She has the bloodline of the Golden Phoenix. After explaining, Night Sorrow didn't say anything else. He used the 1,000 catty demon subduing spear to shatter the stone wall in front of him. Before Jingyun started cultivating, they had heard the sound of water. This proved that there was definitely something else behind the stone wall. As expected, after Night Sorrow's attack, water flowed out from the wall. However, the Tao comprehension wine's smell had become very thin. It was probably because Jingyun had just absorbed it. Night Sorrow continued to wield the 1,000 catty demon subduing spear as he dug deeper into the stone wall. The originally dripping water gradually became turbulent. Night Sorrow asked, there's an underground river here. I want to go in and explore to see if there's any Genesis essence. Is it suitable for you to enter in your current state? Of course. I can retract my flames at any time. The flames on Jingyun's body were naturally not afraid of water, but there might be something in the underground river. Her body was covered in flames and would be too conspicuous and easily attract attacks. When Jingyun shyly retracted her flames, the two dove into the underground river together. The water in the underground river was extremely cold, and the pressure was especially great. The two had just dove down 20,000 meters when Jingyun felt that she couldn't bear it anymore. Without using her flames, she was only a lower-level feather god body refiner. Night Sorrow. I don't seem to be able to continue. I've gained a lot this time, and I'm already satisfied. Why don't I wait for you here? After diving down another 1,000 meters, Jingyun finally couldn't bear it anymore and stopped. All right. Then find a place to hide and keep the twin shells. Call me if you need anything. Night Sorrow glanced back at Jingyun and felt that it wasn't appropriate for him to look at her. He hurriedly turned his head and continued diving. When he thought of Wu Lingfei, his desire to become stronger swelled. After diving down 50,000 meters, Night Sorrow also felt that he had reached his limit. However, he once again sensed the aura of the Tao Comprehension Wine. It was in the depths of the underground river. At the same time, the surrounding temperature began to plummet. Mo Yuqian had once said that such a situation was very likely caused by Genesis Essence. There's definitely Genesis Essence down there, but I don't know how much. His body really couldn't bear it anymore. Night Sorrow put up a barrier of virtue power and continued diving. After diving down 108,000 meters, he finally saw the bottom of the underground river. There really is Genesis Essence, and there are as many as 5 drops. I've really stumbled upon an opportunity this time. Night Sorrow immediately saw a spring the size of a well on the ground. Around the spring were 5 drops of green water. The energy in these water drops was very pure, and they emitted a fragrance that was even stronger than the Tao Comprehension Wine. It was obviously Genesis Essence. According to the records, 10 drops of Genesis Essence could cleanse a cultivator's entire body and strengthen their body by several times. Seeing the 5 drops in front of him, Night Sorrow's lips curled into a smile. However, right at this moment his expression changed. At the bottom of the river 1,000 meters away from the Genesis Essence, there was a 10,000-meter tall mountain in the shape of a coiled black dragon. Night Sorrow couldn't see through the black dragon's body refinement level, but it had clearly surpassed the feather god level. It gave off a huge pressure. It was clearly much stronger than the bone dragon and the tiger-shaped beast. Night Sorrow felt that it was even stronger than the Nether River. What should I do? The Genesis Essence is right in front of me. Should I snatch it or not? This coiled dragon was definitely stronger than the average high god. However, it didn't seem to have any intention of attacking Night Sorrow, but he wasn't sure if it would attack him if he tried to take the Genesis Essence. Forget it. I'll go all out. Chapter 24:18. Night Sorrow was not too far from the bottom of the river, only 1,000 meters or so. The Genesis Essence was right in front of him. As he swam downstream, Night Sorrow kept his eyes on the coiled black dragon, but soon after, he felt that something was wrong. The black dragon had not moved. However, when he was still 500 meters from the bottom of the river, the pressure on Night Sorrow's body was almost unbearable. Although he was protected by the power of virtue, cracks had already appeared on the surface of his body, making him look like a porcelain doll that would shatter with a single tap. A treasure like the Genesis Essence is indeed not easy to obtain. The short distance of a few hundred meters was like a natural chasm that was extremely difficult to cross. As he continued to swim, Night Sorrow felt as if his body was about to explode. However, in order to become stronger and better protect his family, he continued to persevere. I'm close. The Genesis Essence. I'm coming. Night Sorrow's condition was very bad, but he continued to persevere. As he neared the Genesis Essence, he immediately felt a strong life force, and his injuries felt much better. It's good stuff indeed. Without any hesitation, Night Sorrow collected the first drop of Genesis Essence before reaching for the second drop. However, it was at this moment that the motionless black dragon suddenly let out a manic roar as it lifted its tail and whipped it at Night Sorrow. Although they were in the water, the attack was too fast to dodge. Night Sorrow's body was almost smashed to pieces by the dragon's tail. Fuck. It's a sneak attack. After being swept by the black dragon, Night Sorrow immediately felt a tearing pain that he had not felt in a long time. However, it was too late for him to dig a hole and escape. Without waiting for Night Sorrow to ponder, the black dragon let out another roar. This time, it used a soundwave attack in an attempt to shatter Night Sorrow's body. Damn worm, if you want me dead, I'll definitely kill you myself if I have the chance. Night Sorrow's body began to crack at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a moment of desperation, Night Sorrow cursed as he hurriedly collected the 3 drops of Genesis essence and dove into the spring. What Night Sorrow didn't expect was that as soon as he entered the mouth of the spring, he entered another world. This world was very simple. It had a radius of a few hundred meters, and there was only a teleportation array and a green pool. This pool. Even someone as knowledgeable as Night Sorrow was stunned by the sight before him. The 10-meter wide pool before him was completely filled with Genesis essence. Night Sorrow, whose body was almost torn apart by the black dragon, plunged in without a second thought. The Genesis essence in the pool was not as solid as it was on the outside, allowing Night Sorrow to sink into it. As soon as he was swallowed by the pool, Night Sorrow felt his body rapidly recover. His body's strength was also constantly increasing. Soon, Night Sorrow was completely immersed in this comfortable feeling and fell into a deep sleep. 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 3,000 years quickly passed in this sleep. Night Sorrow had consumed a large amount of Genesis essence in the pool, but he still didn't wake up. It was as if he had lost consciousness. He was still asleep. Lord Night Sorrow, please wake up. Please wake up. Yuan Xianro, the 73rd disciple of the treasure-gathering pavilion, was resting in Night Sorrow's spatial artifact. When she saw that Night Sorrow still hadn't woken up after the Genesis essence was completely consumed, she immediately called out his name. Who's calling me? Yi Shang's mind buzzed when he was called, and he woke up with a start. Lord, it's me. Yuan Xianro softly replied. I didn't expect that saving you would be so useful. Thank you for waking me up. Otherwise, I don't know when I would have woken up. After waking up, Night Sorrow suddenly felt some lingering fear as he recalled what had happened. Although the Genesis essence was a good thing, the amount of medicinal efficacy he had obtained from using it was too great. His body had symptoms of being poisoned, causing him to be unable to wake up. If Yuan Xianro hadn't called out to him, who knew how many years he would have slept? Although it wouldn't harm his body, he would have missed out on many important things. It's because of Lord's kindness that this happened. Not only did you obtain an opportunity, but you also woke up at the right time. Within the spatial artifact, Yuan Xianro's voice was filled with envy. She already knew that the Genesis essence was a good thing, but she could only watch Night Sorrow enjoy it because she couldn't leave the spatial artifact. However, she immediately felt relieved. This was Night Sorrow's opportunity, not hers. Don't worry, I won't forget your kindness today. After strengthening my body, I should be able to leave the Endless Bone region very soon. As long as I leave the Endless Bone region, you will regain your freedom. Night Sorrow first thanked Yuan Xianro before asking, how long have I slept? His body was already at the intermediate feather god level, and the strength of his body had increased by another level. It's already been 3,000 years. Yuan Xianro truthfully replied. What? 3,000 years? I wonder how Jing Yin, Ho Lai and the others are doing. Night Sorrow's head shook when he heard this. He hurriedly searched for the twin shell, but found that it had already been lost. It should have been lost when the black dragon attacked. He had agreed to let Jing Yun, Ho Lai and the others wait for him, but he didn't expect to have slept for 3,000 years. It's been 3,000 years. I'm afraid that the scripture that can refine one's body has already been snatched away. Night Sorrow shook his head. What he was most concerned about now was the safety of Jing Yun, Ho Lai, Geng Chen, Zhu Yunxia and the others. He immediately prepared to leave and inquire about them. You've also been strengthened. At this moment, Night Sorrow noticed that the originally black 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear had turned a bluish-green color similar to the Genesis essence. It looked like black iron had turned into jade. It should have absorbed a lot of Genesis essence. Its hardness and weight had also undergone a huge change. It was likely that the Endless Bone Realm would attract a lightning tribulation. The Endless Bone Realm's laws were incomplete. Although the time laws were very special, and 1 year was equivalent to 10,000 years in the God world, it couldn't be cultivated. There was also no divine yuan qi and no lightning tribulation. This time, Knight Sorrow tightly grasped the 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear, and felt as if his heart and soul were connected. Although this wasn't his weapon, Knight Sorrow still felt very excited. He felt as if his companion was growing alongside him. Phew, it's time to go out. After calming down for a moment, Knight Sorrow exhaled, and began to check the small domain to see if there was any more Genesis essence. He only found 3 solid drops, which were the 3 drops he had brought in. The small domain was sealed, and he couldn't find the way back to the spring. Knight Sorrow could only hold the 1,000-kilogram devil-subduing spear, and step onto the teleportation array beside the spring. A moment later, Knight Sorrow appeared on the platform at the entrance of the array. It was unknown what kind of battle had occurred on the platform, but it was completely dyed red with blood. Moreover, there were no large craters, and it no longer looked the same as before. Countless deep craters had been blasted into the stone steps, and the number of skeletons had also increased by several times. It was obvious that many cultivators had died here and turned into skeletons without intelligence. Knight Sorrow's body refinement had reached the intermediate feather god stage, and he could obtain the power of virtue from killing skeletons. However, he did not do so. Instead, he immediately went to the cave to look for Ho Lai and the others. However, the cave was still there, but there was no one there. Unable to find Ho Lai and the others, Knight Sorrow followed the original path to look for Jing Yun, but returned empty-handed. He also didn't see the fire attribute bone dragon, or the tiger-shaped beast. Even the world tree was nowhere to be seen. There were traces of a great battle everywhere. What happened in the past 3,000 years? With heavy doubts, Knight Sorrow left the array and rushed towards West Abyss City. Chapter 24:19. West Abyss City was originally a city with more than 100,000 cultivators, but now it was all in ruins. The city was full of skeletons without intelligence. They would fight from time to time, and the scene was very chaotic. There was not a single living cultivator in the entire city, but there were many bloodstains on the ground. It was obvious that a great battle had taken place. West Abyss City was Jing Hong's territory. It seems that it has been destroyed, and the entire city has been massacred. I wonder how Jing Yun and Ho Lai are now. Seeing the terrible scene in front of him, a trace of worry flashed through Knight Sorrow's heart. He did not stay for long and rushed to East Valley City on a more familiar path. This is the Python King? Still some distance away from the valley where East Valley City was, Knight Sorrow saw a huge black python hanging at the entrance of the valley. There were many wounds on its body. These wounds were dripping with blood, making it look bloody. There were 7 or 8 cultivators sitting around a stone table, eating roasted meat. When the meat was finished, they cut off a few pieces from the python's body and continued to roast them over the fire. Say, this Python King's vitality is really tenacious. It's still not dead after being cut off for 3,000 years. How many meals have we eaten this roasted meat? A monkey-like cultivator sneered as he looked at the dying Python King. There was a hint of cruelty in his eyes. This bastard killed Fox and pissed us off. It's only been 3,000 years, how can it be over? As long as we don't leave the endless bone region, we'll continue to torture him. Another male cultivator with a thick evil aura between his brows revealed a sinister smile. It's a pity that the culprit behind him escaped. Otherwise, I would have hung the 2 of them together and let everyone in East Valley City eat their flesh. I reckon he died in the Great Formation 3,000 years ago. Even if we want to avenge Fox and the others, we won't have the chance. Otherwise, I'll make him suffer a fate worse than death. The monkey-faced cultivator Huang Ho's face was full of hatred. He really missed the coquettish Fox when he thought about it. That's not necessarily true. Maybe he's a coward. When he heard that you and I are here to block him, he hid himself and didn't dare to show his face. Lai Yan, whose face was full of evil aura, said with a sinister tone. Bah! Just based on the few of you, how could you possibly be a match for His Excellency? If His Excellency returns, all of you will die. The dying Xiaotl King said with disdain when it heard their arrogant talk. The several cultivators in front of him had already said the same words no less than 10,000 times. He was tired of hearing them. Io, Today was a good day. This reptile actually spoke. Hearing the Xiaocotl king's words, the cultivators all stood up and surrounded him, each using weapons such as sabers and spears to torture him. One of the cultivators used a saber to cut off a large chunk of flesh from the Anaconda King's head. He taunted, "Since your boss is so powerful, hurry up and show him to us." Hiss. The bloodied Xiaocotl King trembled as it panted. It wanted to retort, but it no longer had the strength. "Quick, this guy can't hold on any longer. Don't let it die." A cultivator took out a bottle and poured out some spirit liquid, giving the Python King another breath of life. When the Anaconda King recovered slightly, they continued to talk and laugh as they cut off its flesh. "You bastards! Stop right now." Night Sorrow, who was still tens of thousands of miles away, roared before he arrived. Seeing the Xiaocotl King being tortured to such a state, he was enraged. Without the Python King, he would not have known about the Great Formation and obtained the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. Moreover, Night Sorrow had said that as long as he was in the Endless Bone region, he would take care of the Python King. How could he not be angry when he saw the Python King being tortured to such a state? "Io, here comes someone who's not afraid of death." "Stop, you think I'll stop just because you tell me to?" Huang Ho made a deep cut on the Python King's abdomen. He teased, "Python King, your boss is here. Wake up." Me boss. It's really you." The Python King's eyes were filled with blood, but Night Sorrow was already close. He could vaguely tell. "It's me. No one will bully you in the future." Night Sorrow tried his best to control his trembling voice. His anger had been completely ignited. Killing someone was nothing more than a nod of the head, but these cultivators were so cruel. "Boss. It's really you." Hearing the conversation between the Python King and Night Sorrow, the malicious-looking male cultivator, Lai Yen, immediately released a powerful aura. The others also showed resentful expressions and opened their mouths to curse. Huang Ho wielded his saber and attacked Night Sorrow. "You didn't take the path to heaven, but barged into hell. The Python King now will be you tomorrow." He was a mid-level feather god, and wasn't the strongest among the cultivators. However, seeing that Night Sorrow was also a mid-level feather god, he didn't hold back and slashed with his saber. This saber was extremely vicious and carried a frightening cold light. The saber was dripping with blood. "Tomorrow? You don't have to think about it anymore because your life will end today." These cultivators were incomparably vicious and had committed atrocities that infuriated both the heavens and the people. Yi Shan had no intention of showing mercy at all. He took out his 1,000-kilogram devil-vanquishing spear and blasted this monkey-faced cultivator into a bloody mist. "What? So strong?" Seeing this scene, the remaining cultivators all became nervous. Among them, 4 were upper feather gods and 3 were intermediate feather gods. However, none of them could kill the monkey-faced cultivator, Huang Ho, in one blow. "Huh, Huang Ho. Weren't you very arrogant? Why did you turn into a mist?" Huang Ho was killed by Night Sorrow in one blow. The Python King shouted to vent his anger, but his body was in so much pain that it twitched. "Since we've drawn out your so-called boss, you've lost all value. I'll kill you first." Lai Yen roared and swung his sword at the Python King's head. "I'll kill you first." In the next moment, Night Sorrow swung his spear. The spear was launched later but arrived first. No one could see it clearly before the upper feather god, Lai Yen, was killed in one blow. Just like Huang Ho, he was blasted into a bloody mist. Before using the Genesis essence of heaven and earth to strengthen his body, Night Sorrow had killed a top-notch upper feather god, Ling Tian, in one blow. Now that he had been strengthened, his body's strength had taken a qualitative leap. Although he had not experienced a strong enemy yet, Night Sorrow felt that those below the upper feather god level should not be a threat to him. He should be able to kill an ordinary upper feather god in one blow without using the forbidden spear art. What? He's so strong. He's already not inferior to the former 4 great experts. We can't fight him head-on. Run, as long as we escape back to the valley, we'll have a chance. Lord Li Yuan is in the city. When the cultivators saw Night Sorrow kill Lai Yen with one blow, they were scared out of their wits and completely lost the will to resist. Want to escape? Where do you think you're going? After Night Sorrow advanced to an intermediate feather god, his speed had increased by several times. These people could not compare to him. In a moment he killed another 2 cultivators who wanted to escape. Help! Lord Li Yuan, help! Enemy attack! Enemy attack! An upper feather god shouted in the direction of East Valley City as he fled. The distance was not far. Soon a violent roar came from East Valley City. Who dares to invade my East Valley City? Do you want to die? My lord, run! This was one of the former 4 great experts, Northern Desert City's Li Yuan. He has now surrendered to Fengling. He became Fengling's dog. He even gave up his wife and daughter. Hearing Li Yuan's voice coming from East Valley City, the Python King used all his strength to remind Night Sorrow. Even Li Yuan surrendered to Fengling. He had the last laugh in the Great Array 3,000 years ago. During the process of questioning, Night Sorrow continued to kill the fleeing cultivators. He had many things to ask about the past. After killing a few cultivators who wanted to escape, Night Sorrow lowered the mangled Python King from the air. He also gave it a drop of Genesis essence so that it could quickly save itself. Night Sorrow knew that the Python King had been tortured for 3,000 years. If it was not treated with a rare treasure, it would not be able to recover. Chapter 24:20. Bastard, how dare you be so fierce in front of me? What? How dare you ignore me? Who do you think you are? Li Yuan, who was still some distance away from the valley entrance, flew into a rage when he saw Night Sorrow not only kill several people in succession, but also ignore him to treat the Python King. Fengling had won the battle for the body-tempering treasured tome, and successfully broke through to the body-tempering high god realm 1,000 years after obtaining the tome. Since then he had begun to conquer the 4 directions. The first person to be conquered was Li Yuan. After his territory was washed with blood, he knelt in front of Fengling and begged for mercy. He even gave his wife and daughter to Fengling for pleasure in order to save his life. In the end, Fengling asked him to lead all the surrendered cultivators to guard East Valley City, and ordered them to never take a step closer to the sky-reaching bone tower to prevent him from leaving the endless bone region. Li Yuan had been suppressing his anger all this time, and had nowhere to vent it. In terms of strength, Fengling, who had broken through to the body-tempering high god realm, was much stronger than him. Li Yuan had completely lost the will to resist. Today, someone had invaded East Valley City, which gave him a chance to release his anger. However, Yishang ignored him, and continued to help the Python King recover. In the past 3,000 years, the Python King had suffered too much. Even though they did not have deep feelings for each other, Yishang still felt sorry for him. My lord, what did you give me? The Python King, who had thought that he was going to die, suddenly became excited when he saw his body recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. After being tortured for 3,000 years, he thought that he would definitely die. One must know that Li Yuan was once one of the invincible experts in the Endless Bone region. In the hearts of many cultivators, he was undefeatable. Genesis essence of heaven and earth. Night Sorrow had only brought 3 drops of Genesis essence of heaven and earth. He had given one to the Python King, and diluted the other to heal the Python King. He had used 2 drops in one go. Using 2 drops of Genesis essence of heaven and earth to heal the half-step god realm Python King was quite extravagant. Most likely, none of the half-step god realm cultivators in the Endless Bone region had ever enjoyed such treatment. What? This is Genesis essence of heaven and earth? This is Genesis essence of heaven and earth? Upon hearing Night Sorrow's words, the Xiaokou King cried out in excitement. It even felt that the 3,000 years of suffering were worth it. After using the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, the Python King's body cultivation level rose to the lower feather god stage in an instant. Moreover, it was much stronger than an ordinary lower feather god. Thank you, sir, for your guidance. The Python King, who had returned to his human form after Night Sorrow put him down, knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times. Night Sorrow's generosity was rarely seen in other powerhouses. He was now very glad that he had made the decision back then. You were implicated because of me and suffered so much. It's only right that you get some benefits. Now that you've obtained 2 drops of Genesis essence, your body's talent has greatly increased. Cultivate well in the future. Night Sorrow helped the Xiaocotl king up and gave him some instructions. However, his mood was heavy. He was worried about Jing Yun and the others. Li Yuan had just arrived at this moment. He was enraged when he heard that Night Sorrow had given the Genesis essence to the Python King, and 2 drops at that. With a gloomy face he roared, "Damn it! You're wasting such a treasure. You actually used 2 drops of Genesis essence on an ant." Li Yuan, who had been in the Endless Bone region for countless years, had only obtained 8 drops of Genesis essence. He still lacked 2 drops to strengthen his entire body. Night Sorrow disdainfully said, "It's a waste to use it on you. A piece of trash who sacrificed his wife and daughter for his own life." Family held the most important position in Night Sorrow's heart. He absolutely despised Li Yuan, who had given his wife and daughter to Feng Ling to play with. "You're courting death. Do you really think that I, Li Yuan, am someone that anyone can provoke? You intermediate feather god ant." Li Yuan, who was already furious, twisted his face when he heard Night Sorrow's mockery. He swiftly sent a kick towards Night Sorrow's head. In his opinion, there was no need to use any technique to deal with an intermediate feather god trash. He could just crush his head with a kick. "No wonder you lost to Feng Ling. So your brain isn't working well. I'll use you to test my strength." Night Sorrow had consecutively killed an upper feather god, but Li Yuan still treated him like an ant. He was too arrogant. Night Sorrow didn't use the evolved 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear to deal with him. In order to test his strength, he directly threw a punch. He wanted to see the strength of an expert who was infinitely close to becoming a high god. Boom! The 2 collided, and the surrounding ground immediately collapsed. The ripples of energy spread all the way to the valley. The entire area seemed to have experienced a natural disaster. More than half of the cultivators in East Valley City had been drawn out. "Look, it's Lord Li Yuan fighting someone. Who is this person?" A pale-faced cultivator watching the battle asked in confusion. The 4 great experts of the Endless Bone region had always been mythical existences. They had won and lost against each other, and some had even been killed. However, they had never been challenged by other cultivators. They were like mountains that stood in the hearts of many cultivators. The 5 or 6 cultivators who rushed out behind Li Yuan were so shocked that they couldn't believe their eyes. This was because they saw with their own eyes that Li Yuan's attack was easily blocked by Night Sorrow. After the 2 exchanged blows, the result was that Li Yuan kept retreating. He was obviously suppressed. They felt that the Endless Bone region had completely changed this time. Not only was Feng Ling standing at the peak, but there was also a cultivator who could challenge the 4 great experts. The era had completely changed. They couldn't look back at 3,000 years ago. How is this possible? I actually suffered a loss at the hands of a mid-level feather god? Li Yuan was stunned that he had suffered a loss at the hands of Yi Shang. In his opinion, only Feng Ling could suppress him in the Endless Bone territory. "Who are you? Are you the Southern Wasteland King, Ao Qinggu?" Li Yuan asked in shock. In fact, although the Endless Bone region had always been known to have 4 great experts, everyone had only seen Feng Ling, Jing Hong, and Li Yuan. The Southern Wasteland King, Ao Qinggu, had never appeared in her true appearance. No one even knew whether Ao Qinggu was a man or a woman. Ao Qinggu didn't appear in the battle for the body-tempering treasured book 3,000 years ago. In the Great Battle 2,000 years ago, Feng Ling massacred the Southern Wasteland City, but Ao Qinggu didn't appear either. Feng Ling once said that he had scared her out of the Endless Bone region. "Ao Qinggu? You think only the other 3 can challenge you?" Hearing Li Yuan's words, Night Sorrow sneered. "Times change. Those who can't keep up will definitely be eliminated. Remember, my name is Night Sorrow." As he spoke, Night Sorrow and Li Yuan fought again. He wanted to test the strength of his body, so he kept clashing with his opponent. After clashing for thousands of times, Night Sorrow confirmed that his body was as strong as Li Yuan's without using the power of merit to protect his body. Although his body tempering level was only at mid-level feather god, His body was infinitely close to that of a great god. Someone like you can even give away your wife and daughter. There's no value in your existence. After confirming the strength of his body, Knight Sorrow didn't want to waste any more time with Li Yuan. He wanted to kill him quickly and find out where Jing Yun and the others were. At the very least, he wanted to find out if they were still alive. After all, they were teammates, but he had disappeared for 3,000 years. This wasn't good. Shameless boasting. Do you think that's all Li Yuan can do after dominating the endless bone region for a few reincarnations? Knight Sorrow didn't take Li Yuan seriously at all. This made Li Yuan very angry. He used to be a king, but now he was being looked down on. He couldn't accept it at all. If you have any powerful moves, you'd better use them immediately. Otherwise, you won't have the chance to use them again. At this moment, Knight Sorrow felt confident that he could defeat Li Yuan, but he wasn't complacent. He knew that his opponents weren't just Li Yuan and Feng Ling. There was Ling Yun and the Purple Mansion Divine Lord behind him, and even the Divine King and the Creator behind them. This was only the first step to becoming stronger in the divine world. Chapter 24-21. You'll pay for your arrogance with your life. You'll fall into oblivion forever. Seeing Knight Sorrow lose focus in the battle, Li Yuan was so angry that he almost exploded. He roared and used the Mystic Thunder Tyrant body that he had exchanged for 50 million crystal cores from the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. The Mystic Thunder Tyrant body was 10 times more expensive than the Berserk secret technique, so its effects were naturally extraordinary. After using it, Li Yuan's body was immediately enveloped by a layer of Mystic Thunder energy. Violent lightning arcs bloomed around him with a destructive aura. When he attacked Yishan again, every time he threw a punch, it would be filled with the violent power of thunder and lightning. It was much stronger than before. If that's all you know, I'm afraid you're going to die soon. Knight Sorrow was indeed a little afraid of this, but he could easily resolve it with a little bit of the power of merit. At the same time, Knight Sorrow, who didn't want to be entangled, used the Thousand Catty Demon Subduing Spear. Under the powerful attacks of the Thousand Catty Demon Subduing Spear, Li Yuan quickly fell into an absolute passive state. He didn't have any time to breathe, and could only barely resist. How is this possible? Lord Li Yuan has already used a secret technique, but he's still being suppressed. Who is this mid-level feather god? A black-robed male cultivator watching the battle asked in surprise. A female cultivator who had seen Knight Sorrow before said, "He seems to be the Knight Sorrow that Lord Feng Ling ordered to be wanted. I've killed a protected enemy in Lord Feng Ling's jurisdiction." Although Knight Sorrow didn't appear many times, some people remembered that he killed Leng Qianxiu. No wonder he dared to offend Feng Ling. He's indeed powerful. However, Feng Ling has already broken through to the superior god level. He's probably not her match. Otherwise, he might be able to save us. The superior god level feather god elder spoke of Feng Ling with hatred in his heart. Feng Ling's people had completely occupied the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda, and didn't give anyone else any chance. They couldn't go to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. The cultivators in East Valley City were just struggling at death's door. While they were discussing, Li Yuan gradually fell into a disadvantage under Knight Sorrow's pressure. He was continuously stabbed by the Thousand Catty Demon Subduing Spear, and his tough body was already bleeding. This was a feeling he hadn't experienced in many years. Secret technique, Heavenly Demon Transformation. Feeling stifled by the pressure, Li Yuan used another secret technique to transform his human form into a gigantic two-headed demon beast. This two-headed demonic beast had a huge wolf body and two huge heads. One was a snake head and the other was an eagle head. The snake head spat out its scarlet tongue and looked very sinister. The eagle head was golden and gave people an extremely dangerous feeling. This is a secret technique that I comprehended after I lost to Feng Ling. You're dead for sure. After transforming into a two-headed beast, Li Yuan's body strength and speed had increased by 5 times. His strength had increased tremendously in an instant. Between the snake head and the eagle head, one was constantly spitting out green poisonous fog, while the other was continuously breathing out golden halos. As soon as the poisonous fog appeared, Night Sorrow felt as if he had sunk into a quagmire. His body suddenly became much heavier, and his speed became much slower. Li Yuan had gained the upper hand in terms of speed, and the golden halo he exhaled had the effect of disrupting souls. This was definitely an extremely special technique in the Endless Bone realm. Even with Night Sorrow's astonishing soul, he was still somewhat affected. The 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear's attacks were no longer as sharp as before. Good technique. Night Sorrow couldn't help but praise Li Yuan when he discovered that he was still slower than him even after using the power of virtue to the fullest. However, Li Yuan wasn't in a good mood after being praised. He realized that although his techniques weren't bad and he had the upper hand, his attack power wasn't enough to break through Night Sorrow's defense and cause him no harm at all. After being strengthened by a large amount of Genesis essence, the strength of Night Sorrow's body had already surpassed the knowledge of many cultivators. Not good. If this continues, I'll definitely die at his hands when the secret technique's time is up. In order to survive, Li Yuan was even willing to give his wife and daughter to Fengling to play with. He naturally cherished his life. After a brief analysis, he decided to give up on the fight and flee. He wanted to use his speed advantage to shake off Night Sorrow and seek help from Fengling. He had heard the discussions of the other cultivators and knew that Night Sorrow and Fengling had a grudge against each other. The truth was just as Li Yuan had expected. After using the heavenly demon transformation and turning into a two-headed fae, his speed was indeed faster than Night Sorrow's, and he quickly fled over 10,000 miles away. However, he had underestimated the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear in Night Sorrow's hands. Seeing that Li Yuan had fled over 10,000 miles in the blink of an eye, Night Sorrow did not hesitate to use the forbidden spear art and send the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear flying. In the blink of an eye, the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear pierced through Li Yuan's body. You're very strong, but you don't have the heart of an expert. A true expert doesn't necessarily have to be stronger than anyone else, but their heart is stronger than anyone else's. Night Sorrow quickly ran to Li Yuan and pulled out the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear as he shook his head. He had seen many experts from various worlds and domains, but there weren't many who were as afraid of death as Li Yuan. Looks like the Endless Bone region's setup isn't enough. Night Sorrow was not too excited about using the 1,000-kilogram demon subduing spear to kill Li Yuan, but many of the spectating cultivators could not stand it. Li Yuan, who was once one of the 4 great experts and was unshakable in everyone's hearts, had been killed by a mid-level feather god. How could this not be shocking? Between Night Sorrow and Fengling, who will be the strongest expert in the Endless Bone region in the future? This was the question in many cultivators' hearts. Although Fengling had already cultivated to the body-tempering stage, Night Sorrow's potential was greater because he could kill Li Yuan as a mid-level feather god. Many of the cultivators who had originally thought that Fengling was invincible were gradually shaken. When they looked at Night Sorrow again, their eyes were filled with fear and reverence. Some people were tempted to follow Night Sorrow and fight against Fengling, but after thinking about it, they felt that it was safer to stay here. Although they could not go to the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda now, Fengling would have to leave one day. Perhaps when he left, their opportunity would come. Amidst their hesitation, the spectating cultivators gradually retreated to East Valley City, afraid that they would be tainted by karma. Python King, I remember that I left you in the southern wasteland. Why are you hanging in East Valley City? Night Sorrow did not take these people's reactions to heart. He walked to the Python King's side and asked after seeing that the latter had recovered well. Hey, don't mention it. When they heard that Naughty Fox died, they all came to the Bone region to find me. I was weak and could only hide in the southern wasteland city, but I was quickly found. The Python King was filled with bitterness when he heard Night Sorrow's words. He had been tortured miserably for the past 3,000 years. It's my fault, but you didn't lose out by obtaining the Genesis essence, so don't mention it again. Tell me what you've heard in the past 3,000 years. Especially anything related to Jinghong. After saving the Python King, Night Sorrow shifted his attention to Jingyun and the others and directly asked about Jinghong. He was very worried about the situation of his friends after West Abyss City was massacred. Chapter 24-22. My lord. Back then, Feng Ling's men were the first to find the body-tempering treasured tome, but they used a scheme to lure Jing Hong and Li Yuan to the location of the tome. They instigated a war between the two sides, and in the end, reaped the benefits and obtained the body-tempering treasured tome. 1,000 years later, they reached the body-tempering supremacy state. The Xiaocotl king recounted everything he had heard. In the battle back then, the southern wasteland king, Ao Qinggu, did not appear. In the end, Feng Ling obtained the body-tempering treasured tome through some means. After he reached the supremacy state, he slaughtered all the cultivators in the other 3 major cities outside East Valley City. Only the cultivators who submitted to him managed to survive in East Valley City. Among the experts, Ao Qinggu did not appear from beginning to end. Many people suspected that this legendary expert had already left the Endless Bone region without making a sound. The defeated Li Yuan had shamelessly offered up his wife and daughter for Feng Ling to play with, thus saving his life. However, he hadn't expected to be killed by Yi Shang despite all his schemes. His end could be considered extremely tragic. Jing Hong fought to the death and sacrificed himself to send his sister, Jing Yun, into the sky-reaching bone pagoda. In fact, Jing Hong, who had not broken through to the body-tempering supremacy state, was not at a disadvantage in the battle against Feng Ling. In the end, he was besieged by Feng Ling, Li Yuan, and Feng Ling's subordinates. It could be considered the final chapter of the battle, and his death was tragic. So this was the ending back then. Do you know what happened to Jing Yin? Did she have a friend who escaped into the sky-reaching bone pagoda with her? When the Xiaocotl king mentioned Jing Yun, Night Sorrow asked anxiously. It seems that she succeeded in passing the bone pagoda, and received some rewards from the cultivation room. I don't know how many years it was. However, I don't think her situation is good. After all, the entire sky-reaching bone pagoda has fallen into Feng Ling's hands. She can't hide in the cultivation room forever, right? The Xiaocotl king explained truthfully. After passing every level of the sky-reaching bone pagoda, one would be rewarded with cultivation time. However, it had been 2,000 years, and the Xiaocotl king judged that things were not optimistic. There's no time to lose. I must go to the sky-reaching bone pagoda. Xiaocotl king's words. Night Sorrow immediately got up. Night Sorrow didn't want to miss the opportunity to make up for it, even if the chances were slim. My lord, that Feng Ling is overseeing the bone pagoda. Furthermore, his people have already monopolized the bone pagoda, and are not allowing any cultivators to enter. The Xiaocotl king hurriedly tried to dissuade him. Night Sorrow was about to do something that no one dared to imagine. How could he not be worried? After obtaining the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, the Python King had completely submitted to him, and was very worried about Night Sorrow's safety. I don't care about that. The only one I'm worried about is you. This trip is very dangerous. Obviously, I can't bring you along. But if I leave you in East Valley City, you will be easily targeted. The Xiaocotl king had been living a miserable life all these years, and Night Sorrow was too kind to wipe out the entire East Valley City. Therefore, it was not safe to leave him here. Bringing him to the heaven-reaching bone pagoda was even more impossible. It was just too dangerous. Why don't you give this little python to me? Just as Night Sorrow was feeling conflicted, an old man's voice suddenly rang out. Brother Mo Yuqian? Although he had not heard this voice for several thousand years, Night Sorrow clearly remembered that it was Mo Yuqian who had given him the Tao-comprehending wine. Mo Yuqian's Tao-comprehending wine played a huge role in obtaining the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. Night Sorrow was very happy to see that Mo Yuqian was safe and sound. Feng Ling's killing intent was too strong. It was not easy for him to survive for 3,000 years. As for how Mo Yuqian had managed to survive, Night Sorrow did not think too much about it. After all, everyone had their own ambitions. Sometimes, when forced to lower one's head, there was no other choice. Hee, it's me. I haven't seen you for several thousand years. Your strength has grown very quickly. Even Li Yuan, one of the 4 great experts, was killed by you. Mo Yuqian still had a wretched look on his face, no different from back then. I still have to thank brother for letting me drink the Tao comprehending wine and obtain the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. I still have 1 drop left, I'll give it to brother. Night Sorrow handed over the Genesis essence of heaven and earth. Hee, how can I accept this? Although Mo Yuqian's words were polite, he did not hesitate to receive the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, his appearance somewhat comical. After receiving the Genesis essence of heaven and earth, Mo Yuqian handed Night Sorrow a wine gourd and said seriously, "Brother is about to do something big. Brother doesn't have anything to help you with, so I'll treat you to a drink." "All right. Then I'll thank brother for your kind intentions." Night Sorrow thanked Mo Yuqian as he received the wine gourd and lifted his head to drink without the slightest hesitation. The taste of the wine was somewhat different from the Tao comprehending wine. It was very strong and spicy, making it very suitable to drink in such an atmosphere. "All right, straightforward." A smile appeared on Mo Yuqian's face, but he did not say anything else. Mo Yuqian then pointed at the Python King and said to Night Sorrow, "Brother Night Sorrow, take care. I'll be taking him away." "All right. Then I'll have to trouble brother." Night Sorrow felt that the little old man Mo Yuqian was a little mysterious. However, he did not think too much about it and left East Valley City, heading straight for the sky-reaching Bone Tower. The evil spirit devouring winds in the endless bone region were no longer as fierce as 3,000 years ago, and were no longer a threat to Night Sorrow. The only things that could threaten him were the giant wind pillars. As long as he avoided them, there would be no danger on his way. However, as he watched Yishang's figure disappear into the horizon step by step, the Python King suddenly felt as if he was a hero who had left and would never return. After all, he did not only have to face Fengling alone, but also all of his subordinates. After Fengling and his subordinates gained power, they had used bloody methods to suppress the entire Endless Bone region, and even took the sky-reaching Bone Tower for themselves, not allowing anyone to approach. The upcoming battle would be Night Sorrow taking on Fengling and his several tens of thousands of elites by himself. "Didn't you guys forbid anyone from entering? Then I'll kill my way in. Don't you like to massacre cities? Today, I'll give you a taste of your own medicine." Night Sorrow exuded a monstrous killing intent. From East Valley City, he could reach the sky-reaching Bone Tower as long as he walked straight. Since he was familiar with the route, he quickly returned to the area where he had fought before. "Who are you? How dare you approach the sky-reaching Bone Tower? Do you have a death wish? Don't you know the rules set by Lord Fengling?" Night Sorrow was still thousands of miles away from the sky-reaching Bone Tower when one of Fengling's patrol teams discovered him. The leader of the team, the high-ranking feather god Zhurong, was a burly man. When he saw a cultivator approach, he immediately scolded him with an unruly expression. Other than Fengling's direct subordinates, no cultivator had dared to approach the sky-reaching Bone Tower for almost 2,000 years. The rules set by Fengling? The rules set by Fengling are nothing. Why should I follow them? Do you really think the Endless Bone Tower is his Dharma treasure? If you don't want to die, scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." Night Sorrow, who was holding the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear, said with a gloomy expression. The battle intent around him had already begun to condense, and he was ready to start a massacre. No matter what, he was going to kill his way into the sky-reaching Bone Tower today. "Bastard! How dare you insult Lord Fengling? Brothers, charge! Tear this madman to shreds." Seeing that Night Sorrow's tempered body was only at the middle-rank feather god level, Zhurong did not do it himself. Instead, he let a few middle-rank and low-rank feather gods do it. "I've seen arrogant people, but I've never seen someone as tired of living as you. How dare you provoke Lord Fengling? You overestimate yourself. I've never seen someone as reckless as you. You're like a mayfly trying to shake a tree." At Zhurong's command, his subordinates immediately surrounded Night Sorrow. In their opinion, the Southern Wilderness King, Ao Qinggu, had gone missing, Jing Hong had died tragically in battle, and Li Yuan had surrendered. There was no one in the Endless Bone region who could threaten Fengling. Their forces were completely invincible. If anyone dared to provoke them, they would be courting death. You're the ones who are tired of living. Now you'll understand what it means to overestimate yourself. Facing the siege of more than 10 cultivators, Knight Sorrow let out a low growl. He directly used the 1,000-ton demon subduing spear to launch 10 simple strikes. After his strength had increased, Knight Sorrow's 10 spears had become even more terrifying. It was not something the patrol team could withstand. In the first exchange, 10 cultivators had their bodies blown apart. Oh no! This person is very strong. Captain, call for help. The other cultivators saw that something was wrong and immediately shouted for Zhurong to call for help. Chapter 24-23. A simple spear attack had the power to destroy heaven and earth. After killing 10 people in a row, the remaining cultivators were almost scared out of their wits. Someone is trying to break into the pagoda in the east. I need reinforcements. I need reinforcements. Seeing the situation in front of him, Zhurong immediately used a voice transmission Dharma treasure to call for help. There were nearly 100,000 people from Fengling, near the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. Under Zhurong's call for help, hundreds of immortal body refinement cultivators rushed to the scene. Oh, there are really people who don't care about their lives. After some people arrived and saw that there were really people fighting, they immediately laughed. Fengling had been too invincible these years. Apart from hunting skeletons, they had not fought for many years. Many people were itching to participate in the battle. In the endless bone realm, being surrounded by hundreds of immortal body refinement cultivators, if it were anyone else, they would have been scared out of their wits. However, Knight Sorrow was not afraid because these people could not break through his defense at all. Soon Knight Sorrow killed hundreds of people in a row. At the same time, he advanced thousands of miles, and was less than 10,000 miles away from the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda. This person is a little too strong. I'm afraid this strength is not something we can deal with. Many cultivators who did not take Knight Sorrow seriously had already put away their sense of superiority. They gradually understood that things were not that simple. However, this also completely alarmed Fengling's people. In the process of fighting, more experts rushed over to help. Not long after, Fengjio arrived with people. Behind him was the fire attribute Bone Dragon, the tiger-shaped demon beast that had been fierce in the formation, and 3 other demon beasts that were infinitely close to immortal body refinement. These 3 demon beasts were the 8-clawed fire centipede, the mammoth ant, and the Zhuyan. They all had monstrous auras, but their eyes were full of flames. Clearly, they did not have any intelligence. Fengling must have obtained an opportunity in the formation, and found a way to control them. Knight Sorrow, it's you. You're really courting death. I let you escape the first 2 times. This time, I'll kill you no matter what. Don't even think about escaping again. After observing Knight Sorrow for a while, Fengjio raised his eyebrows and ordered, "You're no match for him. Hurry up and retreat." Escape? Why should I run? Forget about you. Even Fengling can't stop me from entering the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda today. Your ban is a joke. Knight Sorrow, who had transformed into a god of death, continued to move forward. It was as if he was in a state where he could kill a person every 10 steps. Under Fengjio's command, many cultivators began to hide, but some along the way were continuously slaughtered by Knight Sorrow. He was only a mid-level body-refining feather god, but he had killed an upper-level body-refining feather god as easily as killing a chicken. This made many of Fengling's subordinates shudder. Many people felt that even Fengling did not have such a terrifying killing intent that pressed forward courageously. How did his strength increase so quickly? Could it be that he obtained some kind of opportunity? Seeing Knight Sorrow's state, Fengjio knew that she couldn't let her guard down. She continued to order, "You 5 bastards, tear him apart." Roar. Awa. After Fengjio gave the order, the fire attribute bone dragons, tiger-like fierce beasts, 8-clawed fire centipedes, mammoth ants, and Zhuyan all roared. The fire attribute bone dragon in the air suddenly spat out a mouthful of red flames. This flame covered the sky and covered the earth as it attacked Knight Sorrow. It was the dragon breath that had burned his robe and the robe of nothingness back then. Good timing. Let's settle the matter of the past together. After Knight Sorrow left the array, He found an ordinary green robe and changed into it. Now the green robe had been stained red with blood, and the smell of blood was very strong. But no matter what, Night Sorrow did not want it to be burned. Naked again, he relied on his strong body to avoid the burning range of the flames. He rose into the air and went straight for the bone dragon's huge head. The current Night Sorrow's strength was far from what it was 3,000 years ago. He directly jumped on the bone dragon's head and broke both of its horns. Oh! The bone dragon immediately let out a roar when both of its horns were broken. At the same time, the tiger-shaped beast, the 8-clawed fire centipede, the mammoth ant, and the Zhuyan all moved. The Zhuyan was not big. It was about the same size as Night Sorrow. It looked like an ape, but it had a white head and red feet. Its fangs looked very ferocious, giving people an extremely fierce feeling. It jumped up fiercely and went straight for Night Sorrow. Its momentum was very shocking. Good timing. Night Sorrow, who had just broken both of the bone dragon's horns, threw out a punch and met the Zhuyan head-on. After the collision, the Zhuyan's body was directly sent flying. The huge aftershock shook the bone dragon to the point that it almost fell apart and fell down. With a loud bang, it smashed into the ground. The bone dragon had just landed, and before it could even catch its breath, Night Sorrow's 1,000-kilogram demon-subduing spear directly pierced a hole in its head. What a big crystal core. This should be comparable to countless crystal cores the size of a fingernail. With a big hole in the bone dragon's head, the flames surrounding its body immediately weakened a lot. The crystal core in its head was also exposed. It was actually the size of a human head. This crystal core was obviously thousands of times more valuable than the fingernail-sized crystal core. Night Sorrow did not hesitate and directly took it out with his spear. Without the support of the crystal core, the fire attribute bone dragon's flames all disappeared, and it turned into a pile of immobile bones. He actually became so strong. Fengjiu was dumbfounded when she saw Night Sorrow easily defeat the Scarlet Ape and kill the fire attribute bone dragon. He immediately took out the twin shells and transmitted his voice to Fengyi. "Big brother! Help! Hurry up and get Sir to come out of seclusion. Someone is forcing his way into the sky-reaching bone tower. I can't stop him at all." "You can't stop him, but there are still the 5 great monsters left behind by Sir. What are you panicking for?" Fengyi quickly responded impatiently. "Cough. If the 5 great monsters could stop him, why would I be in such a hurry to transmit my voice to you?" Fengjiu's expression changed greatly. He said anxiously, "I'm afraid that it won't be long before everyone, including me, is killed by him. This person is too ferocious." Night Sorrow's combat power had completely scared Fengjiu out of his wits. "What? Who has such combat power? Could it be the Southern Wasteland King, Ao Qinggu? Don't panic. Quickly hide in the Bone Pagoda and exchange for some time to cultivate. Hide for a while first." Fengyi said and explained, "Sir and I have important things to do here, so we can't go back for now." "What's so important that our nest is going to be destroyed by someone?" Fengjiu, who was hurriedly fleeing toward the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda, asked with some displeasure. The pressure from Night Sorrow was too great, and he could not calm down at all. "Why are you panicking? If those trash die, then so be it. Sir is planning to seize Jingyun's bloodline. If he can successfully merge with it, he will have a chance to make the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master. At that time, not to mention the Endless Bone region, even High Bay City will be in our pocket," Fengyi said solemnly. "How long will it take for Sir to complete the merging? At this time, I don't have many crystal cores in my hands, and I don't have time to go to Sir's treasury to get them, so I shouldn't be able to exchange for too long of a time to cultivate." Fengjiu asked in a panic as he fled. "You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.